Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse episode 266. I am Peter and joining me once again as always is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
Connor's not here. He had to skip this week, but Matt is back and that is kind of cool and exciting because of plans you had for a couple of weeks last month, you were missing for two Infinite Frontier issues, so it's actually kind of exciting to see what you think of that up until now. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Plus, I think you also missed last month's Rorschach. So again, lots to talk about there. So good stuff. I had to sit and talk about it on my own, and Connor just sat there like the little ginger shit that he is.
At least when you talk about stuff, I try to engage. I don't engage with his because it's Connor, but you know,
because it's Connor.
Yeah.
That's the reason. But this is a DC Comics podcast. We get together, we talk about the books we've read. And coming up on this week's show, we have Infinite Frontier issues 4. I was going to say 0 there. Issue 4. We have Detective Comics 1041. I Am Batman issue 0. Batman Urban Legends issue 6. Batman 89 issue 1. Rorschach issue 11. And the Joker issue 6, which is a Patreon book, but it's also new this week as well. So that works out nicely now that that's back up to date. And that's the books we'll be talking about, but it is also Solicits week, so buckle in for November's Solicits, and there's a lot of interesting things in there. There's also a bit of big news to go along with that as well, which is separate from the Solicits, so it should be an interesting show, all things considered. So that's what's happening.
Yes.
Excellent. I shan't waste time then, because I imagine we're going to talk a lot about various things that are going on. So that said, though, don't worry. No matter how big Solicits are, no matter how much news there is, no matter how many books there may be to get through, there'll always be time for everyone's favourite segment, and that is the ComiXology Top 10.
Fine.
Do you know, that shit, Connor, because of his schedule, and because you couldn't do last week, we had to record on Wednesday for 2 weeks in a row, which was insane, right? It was insane recording that early in the week, and it meant that the top 10 on ComiXology was really weird because it clearly wasn't counting Wednesday's figures because none of the new Marvel books were there yet. But all the DC books weren't doing that well, like compared to normal, and it really made us question like exactly how much time does it include and how does it update. Because I'm looking at this top 10 here, and DC are doing really well, and clearly, obviously, all the Marvel books will be counted by now, so. I think it's fair to say that checking it on a Wednesday is not that good a metric to go by.
Barometer.
Friday, Saturday seems to be a much better time. When we're recording this on Saturday this week for everyone who's curious. So yeah, number 1 is a DC book. Matt, would you care to guess?
Hey, just leave them there.
Would Matt's wife care to guess?
No, she doesn't care. It's Infinite Frontier.
It's not, no.
Damn it. If you guess another one?
I'll always go for a bat book, Matt. If there's a bat book
I know,
guess.
but I don't want to. My instinct won't let me. Is it Detective?
It actually isn't.
No. Batman 89.
It is. Batman 89 is number 1. I guess.
And I know this because my shop was all out of them. They didn't have any.
Doing well, is it? Well, I guess people are curious.
No, they under-ordered because they didn't think it was going to be as hot.
Okay, that's interesting. So that's number 1. Number 2 is a Marvel book. It is X-Force 22, but this is a relatively DC healthy top 10. Detective Comics comes in at number 3. Infinite Frontier comes in at number 4. And then we're back to we've got a Star Wars book from Marvel at number 5. It's The High Republic issue 8. And then Daredevil's at number 6. And then we're back to DC with Rorschach at number 7. Batman Urban Legends at number 8, which is impressive given it's an $8 anthology style book. Defenders issue 1, which is issue 1 of 5, so miniseries. That's at number 9. And number 10 is Batman The Adventures Continues, season 2. So, and then just right after that, 11 and 12 are Wonder Woman and Joker. So yeah, DC very well represented at the top end of this sales chart this week, so
that's good.
Not much to complain about. Obviously a lot of Marvel and stuff after that, but you'd expect that. There's not a lot of DC left. So no, that's neat. So yeah, there you go. See, quick and painless. Connor and Matt always love to complain, but it's so quick and painless. Also,
Sorry, guys, I'm on 4 hours of sleep here. It was Friday the 13th yesterday. Yeah, I watched a lot of movies and ate a lot of junk. So
you say that as if most people actually celebrate Friday the 13th
I do though.
and have plans. I mean, I know you do, but you're you.
I ate s'mores. There was hot dogs.
You know, I legitimately sent Matt a message a few days ago saying, I assume we're doing the normal Saturday time again, which is a valid question because it's been like 2 months since we've recorded on a Saturday for various reasons. And he says, yeah, I can't do Friday. It's Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Saturday's fine, but
Yeah, it's Friday the 13th. Had to get together. It was fun.
He said that as if it was Christmas Day. As if I can't do stuff.
Better than Christmas Day. Christmas Day, you don't get to watch Jason movies. I mean, you could.
You can.
Stopping you.
Yeah. And when they finally make the Christmas set Friday the 13th, it'll be perfect. Not that you can claim it's Christmas Day in the movie because it's Friday the 13th, but it could be the Friday the 13th 2 weeks before Christmas.
The 12 days of Friday the 13th.
Oh, there you go. Yes.
If you start on the 13th and you take to Christmas, it's 12 days.
That is true.
That's math.
Unless you want to start on the 12th, so you get 13 days of Friday the 13th.
Right.
Or you could do like an advent calendar. You could watch one movie like every day, and then end with the Christmassy one on Christmas Day.
But then you'd have to watch the New Beginning and Goes to Hell, and no one wants to do that.
I think New Beginning's still watchable. It's not good. It's definitely one of the worst ones, but it's still a goofy 80s slasher movie with some stuff to laugh at. Jason Goes to Hell though is just
yeah, it's real bad. And Freddy vs. Jason does not hold up as well as it did the last time we recorded when we talked about it.
I love it, but the acting is terrible in that movie.
Oh my god, it's bad. We only made it halfway through before I switched to the reboot.
That main girl in that, like every time she reacts to something, she's like, Freddy's scared of fire, and Jason's scared of how can we use that? And like every time she's trying to pretend she's thinking about something, it's just she looks like she's like struggling to pretend that she's having a thought.
It wasn't good. So we started the reboot, and then people started to peel out. So I was like, all right, I'm going to bed. It's 1:30. And because I'm up early Monday through Friday, my body was like, hey, it's 5:30. Let's get up.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
The reboot's okay. It's not great, though.
I like the reboot. No, I like it. It's fine. It's a distillation of what works, even though it's not perfect.
I mean, I'd still take 1 to 4 and 6 to 8 and X happily over it. Yeah.
We started with Takes Manhattan, because as we all know, Takes Manhattan's the most underrated.
It is, yes, I agree with this.
It is so good. That got so many laughs.
Hey, there's only one Friday the 13th t-shirt I own.
And it's Takes Manhattan.
It Takes Manhattan, yes. Yeah. There's a reason for that.
Yep, I just ordered another one, and I might have another one after that on the way. So it's become a problem. Jason's my guy. I'm contemplating getting a hockey mask tattoo.
I mean, there's a reason why I called the new horror podcast The Sacred Hockey Mask, Matt.
You did? Is that a real thing?
That's a real thing, yeah.
Oh, shit. Look at that.
So,
look at that.
Yeah. You can tell Matt spends a lot of time looking at the YouTube channels. So the symbol is...
I don't have time for much right now. It's not good.
As we'll find out when we find out what books you read this week. But the symbol is literally just a hockey mask and a circle. So part of me was hoping you'd see it and think I'd left you out of a hockey podcast and get upset.
No, because I know you don't care about sports that much. Unless it was about the Mighty Ducks, and then I would be doubly upset. So.
maybe if I review the second season of Game Changers, I'll just use the same logo, but I'll turn the hockey mask into the duck version.
right. Or you make it green and yellow.
All right, let's talk about November's DC Comics Solicits. It is full of things and tidbits and lots of new stuff that we're going to get into here. Last month's were also pretty eventful. I mean, October had a bunch of things. For a start, Hill House is back with a book in October, Matt, so that's pretty cool. There was a sequel to Basket Full of Heads called Refrigerator Full of Heads, which is very apt for DC, given that the whole term of fridging came from a DC comic after all. So yeah, so they've kind of organized this neatly. Although the first two aren't actually issue, like it isn't a new series. We're starting with issue 2, but still, it's they're highlighting this Batman the Imposter issues 2 and 3. Although that said, issue 3 is an advanced solicitation for December. This is not double shipping in November. That is important to note. But this is a Black Label book. This is the Mattson Tomlin, Andrea Sorrentino 3-issue book. I'm not sure why they're advanced soliciting. I think there's a few of these throughout the solicits. I wonder if it's just because it's the Christmas month and they're making those solicits be as light as possible for ordering's sake. That's my only reason I can think of. But beautiful covers. Obviously, we won't be able to try this until October. So
right, it's Sorrentino covers, right?
Yeah. So
the other one, yeah.
Very, very pretty.
Those are very good covers. Stop. My cat's rubbing on the desk and it's shaking it. I'm trying to get her to stop, and apparently it's her new favorite thing.
All right, it's just Matt's in earthquake mode now.
Yeah.
That's what the context of this week's episode is. Next, we have a book that we did mention last week on the podcast because it was announced a little bit earlier, and that is the Jock Batman Black Label book called One Dark Night, and it's all the power goes out in Gotham over the course of the story. It's a three-issue Black Label book, oversized issues, of course, the Prestige Plus format. I mean, I don't know what Jock's like as a writer, but Jesus, I'm excited to see what these pages look like.
I mean, if you think that he's absorbed anything by the people he's worked with, he's got to be somewhat decent. So,
I do love the concept of the book as well. I love the idea of a power, like a blackout and Gotham for a night. And it's all set in one night as Batman's dealing with whatever's going on. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know they're going with the Dark Knight play, but leaving the K off at night, I think it would have just worked too. You know, subvert the naming conventions, you know?
I mean, it works either way. I mean, it has the double meaning either way. So,
yeah.
I can roll with it. You get Batman 116 and 117, which is Fear State's final 2 issues. I suppose. Did we talk about this now? Did we talk about the big Tynion news here?
If you want to. I mean, I don't know when else. I mean, maybe at the end of the Batman solicits, if you want to go that way.
We'll throw it in here because 117 is Tynion's last issue of Batman. That's kind of the lead in. I think it's perfect for it. I think his Joker book, he is going to be writing Joker up till 14, which is like April, if I remember right.
Which is where he was planning on stopping anyways, I think he said. So
yeah, we'll see if they cancel the book or if they just give it a new direction and team or whatever.
Well, he does have a co-writer on it, doesn't he?
He has a co-writer on the backup. He doesn't. I don't think he has a co-writer on the main story.
Okay.
So yeah, this is kind of a big thing, and it's not even just a Tynion story either. There's other comic creators that are following in his footsteps, but basically he was offered a 3-year extension because his exclusive contract for DC is coming up at the end of the year, and he was offered 3 years, which included primarily a lot of Batman. Like the idea being that not necessarily that he would be writing the main Batman book for another 3 years, but certainly for a lot of it, if not all of it, he might be writing that main book. And he turned it down. He decided he wanted to go creator-owned instead. Obviously, he's got several creator-owned books. Obviously, one's Black Label, if that still technically counts. But he also has an Image book. He has 2 Boom books. And he's instead signed a deal with Substack. And of course, when I heard this, I immediately went, what the hell is Substack? I have never heard of this.
And as someone that subscribes to newsletters, I instantly recognize that as like, oh, that's where the newsletter email comes from.
So it's kind of like a Patreon meets newsletter format. But Substack are apparently going to get into comic books, indie comic books, creator-owned comic books, and I'm not sure if what this means for like physical releases or anything like that later down the line, or if that's part of the whole deal or whatever. But basically, Tynion and some other creators are going to be moving to Substack as a way to release their content and completely own their content, which is interesting. And obviously, you know, if you care about the creator, and in this case we obviously do, because Tynion's sort of built up a name for himself, and you know, to just check out our conversations on Nice House by the Lake to see that extends beyond just him writing Batman or writing other DC characters. What was interesting though is I saw Tynion put out a newsletter today. I didn't read the whole thing, but I sort of skimmed it and read a couple of relevant parts. He acknowledges that there's some people he doesn't like that use his Substack, but the reason why he wants to switch to that and why he's also kind of basically leaving Twitter soon is because it doesn't operate on an algorithm like a lot of other social media does. It isn't designed to keep redirecting you to certain voices you don't want to hear, or to sort of pile on like you've unraveled one little thread, so it'll keep sending you down a sort of darker path into more conspiracy theories or into stuff that makes the social media platform money. It's a bit more, you go to Substack, you go to the ones you want, and it never tries to. At least as far as I know, I've never used Substack. I'm just going based on what he said.
Yeah, I only know it based off of getting those newsletters through Substack. So that's how I knew it. So I had no idea it was even like a Patreon thing,
Well, I mean, I don't know exactly how it works. I don't know if it is a Patreon-like subscription where you'll just get the issues they put out in a month, whether that be 2 or 3, presumably of different books from different artists, or if it's just like do they just sell the issues one by one, like you'd be buying them on ComiXology anyway? Is it that simple? Is it just, here's a $4 book, you just pay it directly to them, and they make more of the cut, and therefore they're making more money out of it, and that's cool, I guess. It's kind of this interesting thing, because obviously these creators have got big enough followings where they can do this, and they'll probably make a killing by now making a bigger cut of the profit.
When you think about it, that's what the Image guys did back in the 90s.
Yeah.
They went and did the creator and stuff. One of the guys I follow on Twitter was talking about how this is a bad idea, and the only reason that he says it's a bad idea is that he just got done ghostwriting a book about this kind of thing. So I don't know. I have an open mind to it. It's whatever works for them. I don't read much of Tynion's creator and stuff. Like, Nice House is through DC, so that makes it easy. But like, I haven't read Department of Truth or anything, because that's the stuff that I'm going to end up trade waiting for the most part.
Yeah, I've obviously been interested in something that's killing the children. I've heard good things about that. It's sort of thing where I might be more inclined. Obviously, I always prioritize DC because we have a DC show, and every week, I keep up in that. Partly because I love DC, but partly because it's also like a show I do and have to do on a weekly basis. So it just becomes kind of my thing, and I'm not necessarily always in the mood to read a bunch more comics. Once I've done that, I've got other things to do. I've got movies to watch, TV shows to do. Again, all kind of for content, and so there's a kind of a list of priorities, and then just sort of reading extra comics for fun is something that sometimes I'm in the mood for, but it tends to be kind of in pockets of time rather than a consistent basis, which is why trade waiting seems to be better for that kind of thing. Not that I'm against keeping up with a few books, but and it's maybe something.
Even so, I really love Josh Williamson and his creator-owned stuff, and I tried to start with Nailbiter, but I'd only ever read Nailbiter in trade. So when I started trying to do Nailbiter returns and singles, I'm not used to that flow because I'm used to just reading a trade in 2 days.
Yeah.
And then waiting for the next one, because it's paced so well to read in trade form. And then so something like Birthright, I was reading from the beginning in monthly, and I got behind because of DC priority and stuff. So I still have a stack of Birthright to read that I have in singles, that would have otherwise been a trade. So it's just, you play to your own strengths, I guess.
Yeah, and I think one of the things as well is that creator-owned books, I think, tend to work better in trade. Not always, I'm sure. Obviously, there's exceptions and they vary from book to book, but they tend to work better in trade, I find, because you're dealing with a lot of original characters, and I find that that month-long gap between issues can be kind of nightmare, because sometimes I struggle to remember stuff that happened in a DC book a month ago.
Yeah.
When you're doing it with characters who don't have costumes that make it easy to recognize them, even Nice House on the Lake, we've talked about how there's 12 characters, and we need like a cheat sheet telling us who all the characters are when we're reading it, regardless of how good it is. And that issue 3 was fantastic. I loved issue 3. But it is something that it pops up with those books. So, but anyway, we're getting away from the actual news here.
So like with how Substack's gonna work, like you said, is it gonna be like ComiXology? Is it gonna be like what's that company where you can either buy the trade or you can buy the singles?
Oh, TKO.
Yeah, TKO. Is it gonna be something more like that? I don't know. Nobody really knows as of right now.
Yeah, are they going to go? Are they just going to make graphic novels that are already done? So you just buy it in one big go,
right?
or whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
are they going to even have a physical component? Like,
that's the other
because
question.
printing, yeah,
Yeah.
because printing, I know, takes up a big cost. So
I wonder if it's a case of there will be like a trade and stuff like that. Maybe that's something they license out to an image or something. But
yeah, Image Boom, one of them. You
yeah.
know,
But at the same time, though, I don't know if that's like part of the deal because I know like he signed a contract with Substack, and maybe Substack
right,
don't want them being re-released in other formats.
right.
Maybe they just want it to be exclusive. Uh, so and
Yeah,
maybe this is all buried in Tiny's newsletter. I mean, Connor's the one who actually reads it all the way through, so he's the one who
yeah.
would know
He
this.
reads it letter by letter. Like, he was very upset that he wasn't going to be here to discuss this when it broke. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, he's too busy seeing Green Knight in the theater. Oh no, wait, no, he's not.
Again.
I know he can. You know, right?
No, what?
It got pulled from UK theaters before it released. You can't see it in theaters.
Oh, that's messed up.
He's not seen
I
it
mean,
yet.
that's not a movie. That's not a movie. I kept seeing all the praise. I'm like, I'm glad people are like it, but this does not sound like my thing at all.
He was desperate to see it. He was
Yeah.
so desperate, and they pulled it like a week or two before it came out.
That's I mean I feel bad, but it's Connor, so it's funny. If this happened to me, I'd never shut up about it. If that was Kong versus Godzilla, I'd still be talking about it.
So yeah, he's not seen it yet. So
man,
yes.
all I know is there's a tree guy that's someone described as Groot's uncle,
Mm-hmm.
and I have no idea what the hell else the rest of that movie's about. Like, I know there's knights and Dev Patel, but shoot, man.
Yeah, so I mean, just to sort of like spin this back round to, I mean, obviously Substack's a big deal, the creators going to it's a big deal, and what other creators might it lure away. But I think from a DC perspective, since this is a DC podcast, we're losing Tynion. We're losing Tynion on Batman. We're losing Tynion in general, at least for now. I mean, I don't necessarily think he's gone forever. Like he might get the itch to do some superhero stuff later down the line, but at least for now, he's thirsty to go make his own name for himself.
Did you see some other website, who will not be named, claimed that DC's actively trying to get Donny Cates to come over to take over for Batman? And Donny Cates tweeted, he's like, "I've heard rumors of DC talking to me, and if true, that'd be great. DC, what are you offering?" Yeah. And so it's so funny that I like when names like that get brought up, and then they decide to have a little bit of fun with that. But and it makes comics kind of fun, like, not to diverge into wrestling, but like,
I know where you're going with this.
well, no, just like no, not that, but it's like when there are people that can pop up at any time, right? It does make it more so. Like when Donny Cates, who's really only done Marvel, the idea of him coming to DC, or Jason Aaron coming to DC, or Tynion going to Marvel, just that kind of stuff kind of excites me as a comic fan, just to see what they would do with those characters, So, so yeah, who knows at this point? Like, it seems to me like DC's prepping a new generation right now. Well, Tom Taylor is kind of the.
Well, I think that's the big thing, though. Is I think I actually put it on our Twitter at DC Comics Podcast for anyone who's not following us. I put it on our Twitter just like 2 weeks ago, saying, "Hey, if the Mount Rushmore of DC Comics right now, this generation." I put down Tynion, Taylor, and Ram V and said, "Who's the fourth?" And people were saying Williamson, some people were saying King, and so on. So, I mean, we were considering Tynion as one of these, like, spearheading, mainly because he was in charge of the Gotham corner of the world, but we're losing him. So, we're left with Taylor and Williamson. They seem to still be on board for the foreseeable future, which is great.
Yeah.
But
and they're both doing their things, too.
But I don't think we could pretend that this isn't like a bit of a blow in terms of, like, a big creator
huge.
to lose.
It is like for wrestling. This is them losing a main eventer.
Yes.
So, it's like CM Punk always said, he's just a spoke on the wheel, and the wheel's going to keep turning, and he'll pop up years later on a brand that was never supposed to happen, So, who knows?
I'll point out for listeners that it is 6 days away that CM Punk is heavily suggested.
Fun story. So SummerSlam's going to be here in Vegas this weekend, and I made plans maybe to go. Prices ended up being way too much. Bunch of indie shows. second wave of a pandemic through.
Mhm.
So I'm really not trying to be around large groups of people if
I mean,
I
I
can
think we're
help it.
technically on the fourth wave by this point, but yeah, sure.
Well, what I mean is this:
the Delta.
it's feeling like we're repeating
Yeah.
early 2020.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah, and so I had plans for Friday, and like I'm maybe gonna go to a local show and see
Mhm.
some of my friends wrestle big names. That's not happening now, so that opens the door wide for me to watch Rampage live. However, All Out is the same night if the Newfound Glory concert I'm supposed to be going to is still going to happen. So I'm going to have to be watching my phone to make sure nobody spoils stuff for me.
That's fair.
But that's a month from now. However, not a month. That's 3 weeks from now. Good
yeah.
Lord.
I will say the first Rampage last night was very enjoyable, and
It's not up on the app yet, and my DVR didn't tape it, and I'm still not done with this week's Dynamite because.
Joe, I will say this is getting to tangent territory. Sorry, David.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that the format seems to be for this, and this is maybe genius because they're always either recording it the same night or doing it in the same building 2 days later, right? From Dynamite, is that it feels like what they're going to do with Rampage is use that as effectively like a couple of main events from Dynamite. It was like they're going to set up a match on Dynamite, and then that same crowd will get to see that match either later that night or on the Friday if it's live that week. And that's because there wasn't much like promo stuff. There was,
how long of the show is Rampage?
it's just an hour long. It's just it's very lean.
Thank the Lord.
so,
I barely have time to fit in. I'm watching Dynamite on the treadmill at the gym, like trying to watch Darby fight. What's his face? Garcia.
Garcia, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Thank the Lord of Thunder. It's only an hour.
Yeah, no.
Now I'm excited to watch Miro and Fuego del Sol.
It's a 3-match show. They all have time to breathe. You know, there's a little bit of classic almost Mean Gene style, like before or after some of the matches with Mark Henry interviewing, and that's basically.
I heard Jericho is a little bit out of control.
He's very animated. He's animated on the mic. We'll say that.
Oh man, could you imagine if I could channel Jericho on here? I don't have it in me today.
Yeah, I don't think it. Very few people have it in them to channel Jericho.
I was gonna make a very tasteless joke about a recently passed wrestler, but I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah. So you got you had Christian v Omega for the Impact title. You got the TNT title. Yeah, that's spoiled.
I know what happened there.
But probably because there's images of certain people holding belts all over Twitter, I imagine.
Yeah.
And then the women's title match. So it's just 3 matches.
Those two, the two AEW, thankfully have not been for me. So, but that one, I should have expected.
It's well done though. The finish of it's well done, and it heats up the pay-per-view match quite a bit.
Well, I explained to Ashley why that's such a big deal, and she goes, "Oh, that's interesting that they would do that." So,
yeah. Given like the levels of interference, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up with a big stip as well. Cage or whatever. Come pay-per-view.
Brian Cage?
Not Brian Cage. He's busy. He's busy with
Well, Christian Cage is already in it.
Yes. Brian Cage, Christian Cage, Adam Page, Ethan Page, and
Dallas Page.
And they're all going to be in a match together on Rampage.
Yeah. Good Lord.
So easy.
And
so easy.
Darby Allin versus CM Punk at All In. Man.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's set.
Just manifesting. I'm just manifesting.
It's like 99% sure at this point. The heavy teasing. I mean, there was no heavy teases this week, but if you notice, there's like a backstage segment with some of the basketball stuff with the Young Bucks. Just casually on the wall behind them, the lights hitting it were making blue, white, and red, like in that vague shape. And I'm like, what are you hitting at here? What are you doing?
Man, either they're working us so hard, or I'm going to be very disappointed and I might break something. But we'll have to see. But anyways, all this long story short, Tynion is the CM Punk of comics. That's how we do it. That's the segue.
I'm just imagining David sitting there waiting for this to finish so he can do the splice, because he can edit this down for the individual segments,
Yeah.
just pulling his hair out. Sorry,
All
David.
right.
All right.
So we talked Titan. We're back onto
Yeah,
the
back to Solicits, yeah. So Fear State
Solicits.
finishes with Batman 117, which is the finale of sorts. There's a one shot as well, which we haven't got to yet, but we'll see. If I don't know if Tane is writing that too. We'll find out in a minute, I guess. Arkham City Order of the World issue 2. This was something that popped up in October Solicits, and I was very excited because it's intentionally channeling Arkham Asylum with the font and the titling style. They're really going for that, harkening back to that. But this is a 6-issue mini by Dan Waters and Danny, and what little I've read from Dan Waters has been pretty solid. So I'm intrigued.
Connor will be excited. He likes Dan Waters.
Yeah, he likes Dan Waters. Yeah,
I like Danny's art, so that's a win.
Yeah, I'm really excited about seeing this. There's definitely a lot of Bat books on these solicits. They're clearly playing to what they know sells, but most of them look really good. It's hard to deny that they look good.
I used to fight it all the time, and I just can't anymore. I get it. I have to find stuff in Batman that I do enjoy, like this. Like Dick Grayson and Oracle, and so The Outsiders, another one, but. Yeah. I saw someone do the Solicits, and they did the DC logo, and there's an asterisk, and it said, mostly Batman, though, and it cracked me up.
Yeah, Batman Urban Legends issue 9 is coming out, and much like October's issue 2, the stories are Fear State tie-ins, which, again, I think it's a fun use of that book, to have some extra little Fear State stories with characters who aren't in the main books as much. So, that's kind of neat. The one's Outsiders, one's Batwoman, and then there's an Azrael story that's separate, and a Tweedledee and Tweedledum story, of all things.
So we don't know who's doing who, then, right? I'm sure Brandon Thomas is doing the Outsiders. So is that Dan Waters then doing the Azrael story?
Maybe. Assuming they're in order, and the way they've listed the credits there. Yeah, I would assume that. You got I Am Batman issue 3. This is the John Ridley, the Jace, next Batman.
Wish I had time to read issue 1 this week, because I do enjoy that Ridley book. So
yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit later. But issue 0 was this week, so I've got some thoughts. We got Harley Quinn issue 9 coming out. Also Tenant of Fear State. They're doing a good job of all the Bat books, kind of like feeling connected right now.
Yeah, this feels like the last time I can remember them doing this was the not quite Joker War, because that was a little bit more pared down. But back at the beginning of Rebirth, the Night of the Monsters, they had the banner.
Yeah.
That's pretty effective.
Likewise, we have another Batman Secret Files. This one is the Gardener issue 1. It is a Poison Ivy related story. Tynion actually has got a story by credit, so that's neat. So,
also a cover by Tynion.
Really?
Did you see that? It says covered by James Tynion IV.
Is that a mistake?
It's got to be. Hey, if not, good for him.
I hope that it's Tom King, but it's a cover by Tom King. So we got Catwoman issue 37. Again, tying in somewhat to Fear State, and still dealing with some Poison Ivy stuff by the looks of it as well, so that's neat. Yeah. We got Nightwing 86, some really cool stuff coming up in that book. Which I'm excited about based on the teases on Twitter, and the fact that we have Cass, Steph, and Tim all in the cover for this one. So I am delighted by that. We got Detective Comics 1045, also tying into Fear State. This is Tamaki and Dan Mora on this issue, so that is cool. With Tynion leaving Batman, I hope Tamaki's on Detective for a long time, because I am loving her. Not to spoil my thoughts on this week's issue yet, but it's good stuff. Task Force Z issue 2. Again, this was one that started last month in the Solicits. And actually has a lead-in story in Urban Legends this week. No, it's the backup for Detective. No. It's still the lead-in, sorry. I'm getting my lead-ins because there's a story in Urban Legends that leads into another series that's coming up soon in Solicits. So, again, they're doing a really good job of having everything kind of be like connected and sticking together. So here we go. This was the kind of the finale issue for Fear State that was mentioned, because we know we're getting the Alpha lead-in issue this month. So in In November, on the 5th week, so it's a 5th week book on the annual week, we're getting Fierce State Omega, issue 1, which is wrapping things up. And it is Tynion who's writing this, so this is basically, so as much as 117 is his last Batman issue, this is really the end of his Batman run, is this oversized issue, which is fair, it makes sense. So that's very neat. Obviously, I've been enjoying the build up to it. And spinning out of that, we're getting a miniseries called Robins. Robins issue 1 by Tim Seeley, with art by Baldemar Rivas. And it features all 5 Robins, it said. Is that Steph in the back?
Yeah, it's Steph.
Oh,
she
nice.
was a Robin. So that means they've canonically restored her time as a Robin.
I am
which is cool.
A-okay with that.
Yeah.
A-okay. Admittedly, I want a Batgirl's book more than I want a Robin's book. But
maybe one leads to the other.
Yeah, I'll take it. So,
there's a Babs Tar variant. They're not showing. I really want to know what that looks like.
We always have all the covers ready for Solicits, so obviously.
No, I know, but just to tease Babtar, and yeah.
And then we have another Black Label book that's starting in November by Jeff Lemire. It's called Robin and Batman, with issue 1 coming November. There's also an advanced solicit for December's issue 2 as well. So Dustin Wynn on the art, so you can see the Dustin Wynn covers there. Issue 2's cover, I think, is quite nice.
Yeah, with the circus and what looks like Killer Croc.
Yeah, I'll read the description for this one, because this is legendary story of Batman and Robin has reached nearly mythic proportions. The crime-fighting dynamic duo, always one step ahead of the criminals they pursue, and never meeting a case too big. This isn't that story. This is a story of a young Dick Grayson, newly orphaned, struggling to find out his way in a strange, difficult, dark new world. This is a story of Robin and Batman. So this is a maybe not quite a Robin year 1, but an early days Dick Grayson as Robin story, which is just cool.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, one of 3. So that this should be a nice trade when it's all done. You know.
Yeah. So
one of the ones that you can hand somebody and be like, "Here, you like the idea of Robin? Enjoy this."
I suspect so, and if we're lucky, it might even go nicely after, say, either Dark Victory or Robin Year 1. Like maybe it'll nicely not line up completely continuity wise, but be close enough.
Close enough.
Yeah, that you can sort of say, hey, after you read Dark Victory, you read Batman Year 1, you read Long Halloween, you read Dark Victory, and then you read this Robin and Batman book by Lemire. That'd be kind of a cool thing to get people into comics. Next up, there is one of these big $10 prestige anthology books called Gotham City Villains Anniversary Giant issue 1. So this seems to be like one of these big anniversary issues, but instead of giving each of these more smaller villain characters who are hitting like 80 years, they're just doing like a collection shared amongst a bunch of them.
And you get a story, and you get a story.
Yeah, because I'm seeing Red Hood, Mad Hatter, and I think Firefly there on the cover.
On that one, yeah. And it says in the solicit, you got Scarecrow, Poison Ivy, Ra's al Ghul, Talia al Ghul, the Mad Hatter, Killer Moth, and the original Red Hood. However, Ra's didn't come until the 70s.
And Talia is obviously even later than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are they just counting from whoever the oldest villain is? All right, they've hit 80. Everyone else.
Scarecrow and Poison Ivy both came around in 1941. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Whatever. Is that on the week 5 like it should be? Yeah, it is. Okay, that's nice. Like, it's a good week for it. So then we have a new Tom Taylor book to talk about. So this was announced. Yeah, this was announced this week. It's called Dark Knights of Steel issue 1. I want to joke here for a second, actually, because when he was teasing he was about to announce something, he put out the initials and someone said, give us what one of the words stands for, and he cropped out the word of. The O stands for of.
I love that man. What's funny is I followed him on Facebook just as a lark, and now I get notifications when he's talking in threads, which is just weird because it's almost like he's an actual friend of mine. Instead of just a writer that I'm obsessed with. So
that's that algorithm. It's that algorithm that Tynion's trying to get away from.
It is. So it's very funny, but he's always very nice and complimentary, and
Oh sure, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, yeah, like.
So
But the interesting thing here for me was he said that he's not a horror guy, despite deceased and having a flair for being able to write horror, but he loves fantasy. So this is, he's combining superheroes and fantasy, and
so
I,
basically, this is a true test because if I like this
yeah,
book, then Tom Taylor's my love of
yeah,
Tom Taylor's work can
yeah,
transcend my apathy for fantasy.
yeah. I mean, what is he already? He's already got you to like Red Hood, right?
That's true. That's true.
So,
He's pulled off some pretty impressive feats thus far. I will say
I'm
that the main cover is quite nice, with like the elves, Superman's parents, in the background.
okay. The cover that came up for me was the Batman on the horse.
I think that's a variant. Yeah, the main
That's
one's
right.
the next one over.
Yeah.
So this is Yasmin Putri on art. It's a 12-issue mini. I'll just read the text here so you can judge this
Uh-huh.
for yourself. An entire medieval world will be forever changed when a spaceship crash lands from a doomed planet. Monarchs will die, kingdoms will rise, and what seemed to be the end of the world for many was only the beginning. An epic high fantasy story set in a DC universe where nothing is what it seems. So this is basically the fantasy equivalent of like when Marvel did their 1602 or whatever that was.
I was just gonna bring that up.
Yeah.
Yep. Also, he has a flair for the Elseworlds because this would have been an Elseworlds back in the day.
Oh sure, yeah.
So, and between this and Deceased, like Tom Taylor he's really good at playing outside the lines.
I think
So,
it's notable as well that this is not a Black Label book. This is just the regular DC mainline, obviously Elseworlds, effectively,
Right.
but in the mainline pricing and age rating.
Right.
So that's cool. I think maybe that's just because Taylor's books appealed to the white teen market, so they want to keep his
Yeah.
books in that demographic.
Mhm.
So no, that's neat. I'm not a fantasy guy, but I will try anything Tom Taylor writes. I will give it a fair shake and I'll see how I feel. Maybe he can work his magic.
Yeah.
But neat. All right, and Dark Knights of Steel issue 2, advanced solicit for December. Again, there's a lot. Not the main book, so you'll notice there's Batman, Action, Detective. They're not getting advanced solicits, but all of the Black Label stuff seems to be, and the minis seem to be getting those. Justice League Incarnate issue 1. So this is spinning out of Infinite Frontier. This is a 5-issue miniseries. The first issue seems to be oversized. I don't know if that's going to be continuing. And when I say oversized, it's just 10 extra pages as opposed to the regular. It's not that big, but so this is Joshua Williamson and Dennis Culver, with art by Andre Besson and Brandon Peterson, and this is obviously the team that we see a fair bit of in the Infinite Frontier book, with President Superman, and the rest of the gang. So yes.
Damn it! Why did I read the solicit?
Did you just spoil something?
I did for myself. Well, I mean, it's not a major spoil, but like, if you don't want to be spoiled, guys, don't read the solicit.
Oh. Yeah, I just looked at it. It's.
I told you not to.
I know, but you said it, and now I feel like I need to be on even footing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no specifics, but it does kind of like tell you something about the ending of Infinite Frontier if you read the solicit for that. So I won't read it out loud. I won't read it out loud, but yeah.
Something that I was very invested in, and still am. But
yes.
what got me here in the solicits, they do list characters that that pop up that I saw China's Flash from Earth Zero, and that's that's Williamson's what's her name? I'm drawing a blank. Farrah's asleep here.
Yeah, for Avery.
Avery, thank you. I kept wanting to say Everly, and I'm like, it's not Everly. Don't say Everly. Avery. And so the fact that Williamson created her in Flash and pulling her over to Incarnate, so
that's neat.
Like seeing that name pop up there, it's really cool.
Yeah, you got Captain Carrot, you got Mary Marvel from Other Earth, that Mary Marvel's from, and so on.
Yeah.
So obviously this is neat. I've been enjoying Infinite Frontier. Obviously we'll talk about today's issue or this week's issue a little bit later. But yeah, I'm down for something more that spins out of that, especially since it feels like Williamson is sort of like building a overall narrative that's not just the current mini. It's clearly something that there's like more of a long-term game plan with. So I'm excited to see that. We have a new Wonder Woman book. Is this Black Label? I don't know if I'm seeing the Black Label. I don't think it is. So this is Wonder Woman Evolution issue 1. Written by Stephanie Phillips and art and cover by Mike Hawthorne. And we've had mixed feelings. When I say we, I just mean like across the podcast, because I think you and Connor were both fairly into Stephanie Phillips for a couple of stories, and then he's been quite down on the Harley Quinn after a couple of issues. So, but this is an 8-issue mini by Stephanie Phillips. I'll just read the text here, see what it's about. Whisked away from Earth by a distant cosmic entity, Wonder Woman is forced to navigate a series of perilous challenges that push her into the brink of both mentally and physically. At stake is the fate of all humanity, with the alien entities casting Diana as Earth's proxy for a trial judging humankind's worthiness to exist in the universe. Can Diana stand trial to save humanity without losing her own? Do you know? Obviously, I'll give this a try in the sense that I think that's a really cool sounding concept. It's like a very Star Trek Next Generation sounding concept with Wonder Woman, honestly. I will say, though, I don't know Mike Hawthorne by name, but looking at that cover, although admittedly, I think, that's Riley Rossmaster.
That's Rosmo, my guy.
Oh, never mind. Okay, okay. I'm not that worried.
Cover's the one next over.
I mean, I don't love that cover, but it's definitely better than the Rosmo one.
Yeah. I automatically I checked out when I saw the Rosmo art, and then I saw Hawthorne, so then I was like, oh, okay.
Yes.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's fine.
All right. Well, I'll give it a try then. Yeah, so Wonder Woman mini. Yeah, we're seeing a lot more minis. We're seeing a lot more minis pop up. Then next up, this is an advanced solicit for December. Their usual Christmas anthology, which we'll probably skip, I imagine. But this is "'Tis the Season to Be Freezing," which is a fun title. I'll give it that much. I know it won't be right, but this really should. Oh, actually, no. Now I'm looking at the text. It might be what I think it is. Hold on. Okay. So what I was going to say is that this should be an anthology where every story is a cold-based villain. Now I'm seeing some names in the text. I'm going to read this text and find out if it's exactly what I want it to be. On the weather outside, the weather outside is freezing, but these stories sure are pleasing. So since you've no place to go, why not grab a sweater, pour a cup of hot cocoa, and stoke the fire? Because these 10 tales are sure to lower the mercury. Join us as Harley Quinn and Blue Snowman ice out Hawkman, Batman fights Cold-Hearted Mr. Freeze, the GLQ don't stand the Snowball's chance against Minister Blizzard, and Flash and Superman team up to chill out Captain Cold. So warm your holiday heart with these freezing feats of frosty fiction. Now, that was only like 4 stories out of 10. So, Cold Snap has to be in this, right?
Yeah, well, if Minister Blizzard is and Cold Snap's not, then there's a problem.
I mean, who have they left out? They've left out Icicle, Cold Snap, I guess Icicle Jr. if you want to separate.
Well, Killer Frost.
Killer Frost, but she's a hero now, but she still have a story, sure.
You could do a story with her, though.
Maybe Nora Freeze will get her story. Yeah. Oh, man. It's like they're appealing just to us with this. They're like saying, hey, here's a story with all the Freeze villains. Oh, that's funny. All right, okay, next up.
Once I saw Minister Blizzard when I skimmed it, I went, oh, Pete's going to love this.
So, next up, Batman Superman Authority Special Issue 1. And this is written by Philip Kennedy Johnson is writing, so this presumably might tie in a little bit to the ongoing Action Comics stuff, maybe? So art by Trevor Hairsine and Jonathan Glaplian and Ben Templesmith. Following Mongol's attack on a... Yeah, this is I don't want to read the rest of it, I don't want spoilers, just in case, but this is relating to Mongol, so it is relating to Action Comics and what's been going on. So, okay, that's interesting. Whereas that first Grant Morrison issue of his book, or sorry, their book, was just kind of okay. This seems more interesting.
Right. Well, I just think that PKJ appeals to us a little bit more than Morrison does.
That's fair, yes.
So.
Yes, PKJ. Is that what we're going with now?
That's a shorthand on Twitter, so that's what I'm just calling him for now.
Okay, PKJ. So we do have a 5th week in November, so there are some annuals. Not surprising. We actually have Batman 2021 annual by Tynion. Okay, so this is out the same day as the Omega thing, so I guess they're both the end of his Batman. We'll have to get a reading order. We need to know what the reading order is.
This though is just a continuation of the Ghostmaker backup.
Oh no.
So
Okay. Well, in that case, I
yeah,
might skip this. But
yeah. So,
I mean, at least he's getting to finish that story too. He's finishing the Ghostmaker story.
well, which is
Congratulations.
good because yeah, it's I mean it's the I realized this when I was reading Batman last week. Was this is just the almost got him, but for Ghostmaker,
Mm-hmm.
which is my favorite Batman the Animated Series episode, where all the villains are around talking about the time they almost got Batman. Um, and so it's cool that Tynion did that, one of those for Ghostmaker, his own creation, who I still don't like,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not as annoying as at the beginning.
Yeah,
So
it's probably a fair, an easy skip. But I do like the
yeah,
idea that an ongoing story in an annual will, or in a backup, will get an annual issue to itself. I think that's kind of neat for the sake of giving it a big finale. More on that later. Next up, Joker 2021 annual, and I am pumped for this. So Matt, what you didn't hear about last time I read a Joker
mm-hmm.
issue is that the last issue before this one that I did today, so I think issue 5, was like a break issue for Gillen March, and it was a
Mm-hmm.
flashback issue with Frank Avila art, and it was phenomenal.
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah.
I was at that.
This annual is a sequel to that issue. It's another Frank Avila issue, and it's another early Jim Gordon and Gotham story.
Yeah, and it's got Babs in the purple suit.
Yeah, it's classic Batgirl. No, this looks great. I'm excited by this. I really am. So this is neat. So cool stuff. So no, that's just good. That's just good news. I'm all for it. Detective Comics 2021 Annual Issue 1. I'm going to spend a bit more time talking about this because I did see that this has actually got some interesting teases for the future in it, as far as what this is setting up. So this is Tamaki writing, with Matthew Rosenberg, presumably on whatever the second story is. So that's neat. I love that run's still going. But what this is a prelude to a Bat-centric story that's coming next year. It's called Shadows of the Bat. So it says, Shadows of the Bat begins here. And the prelude to the January's epic new Detective Comic event. So this is a Detective Comics-centric event from Tamaki, which is cool. Mayor Nakano has signed off on the construction of a new Arkham Tower in the heart of Gotham City.
Oh, that's a great idea, Nakano.
And the Bat family is torn. Batman has long seen that Arkham is necessary, if flawed, cog in the gears of Gotham City, a temporary solution to a larger problem that in many ways mirrors his approach as Batman. Nightwing, however, who grew up watching Arkham mutate into a villain factory, believes a different approach is needed. But Bruce and Dick will need to see eye to eye on more than just Arkham Tower for a new villain known as the Meager Man. The Meager Man? Okay, I'm interested. Havoc in the
He's
streets.
just like he's not all there, but he's not all the way there. He's just kind of almost there.
Honestly, I have been liking Detective even more than Batman recently, and the idea that the next big Bat-centric story is going to come from from Tamaki.
Turns out Tamaki's a really good writer, which we've kind of always known. What's
so funny is that she was so impressive with that Supergirl mini, and the little teases that we've got from like X-23. I thought her running that was really enjoyable, and her Wonder Woman was a little disappointing. It was still good, but it wasn't like up to the same standard.
So far there hasn't been a book of her that I don't not like. Like there's ones that you're like, okay, this wasn't as good as the other, but they're all good. So like the fact that they're giving her the keys to Detective to do an event that's going to cross over with Nightwing, like that's real good. Also, this has a variant by Jason Fabok, and I just want Jason Fabok back in my comic book life.
At the very least, like this ensures that Tamaki's on the book for at least another 6 issues after this. And if I can, hopefully it'll be more than that, but at least there's a whole other arc coming, so I'm happy with that. Then there's a Nightwing annual as well, Nightwing 2021 annual, by Tom Taylor. So again, it's continuing the trend of having the ongoing writer still writing the annual. Cover by Nicola Scott, although the main art is by Cian Tarmy.
I think it's Kyan.
Kyan Tarmy. Okay.
It's one of those Irish names that they have the Gaelic still there.
So this is a Dick and Jason team up issue. But to be honest, though, like not only has Tom Taylor proven that he can do a decent Jason Todd story, Jason Todd's having like a weird like good year where I've like 3 different Jason Todd stories. So you know what? Sure.
You've seen the memes of the my plans and then the variant.
Yeah.
You want to know what my favorite ones was?
Go on.
It was Jason Todd, and then the variant was
The
phone number
crowbar.
to call to kill him.
Oh right, okay.
So-
The phone number.
So it's making me wonder if we're giving him a good year because he's not long for this world.
Oh,
You
dear.
know?
Oh, that's funny.
It'd totally be Tom Taylor's way to be like, hey, people that don't like Jason Todd, I'm gonna write him, and I'm gonna make him a complex character that you don't have to like, but you're gonna tolerate, and you're gonna like when I write him, and then I'm just gonna rip out his heart. You know, like it's very Tom Taylor.
I'm just going to say that there's more annuals here, so that villain's 100-page book's looking less likely the more annuals that we're piling up here that are actually must reads. Because we got Robin 20.
That said, I might stop in my shop and read the Poison Ivy story in there.
Of course you will, yes.
But that's Ivy. Like, come on.
So we got Robin 20.
Robin annual.
Yeah, Robin annual. This is Joshua Williamson still writing. Again, as expected, it's not the regular artist because obviously the regular artist is still working on the next issue. But
Right.
so this is
I'm not reading the Solicits because I don't trust them. I have trust issues because of Solicits.
Yes. But it seems to feature a lot of the cast of the current book. It's called Tale of the Tape. So
That last issue was so good. I like Homeless Roz.
Were you here for that issue? I can't remember because you missed a couple.
I was not.
No, okay.
I was not.
Oh, it was a good issue. It was a good issue.
I read that issue in a hotel room in Anaheim, so that's how I know I was not. But yeah, no. Homeless Roz. Good luck. I love it.
Okay. Then we got Wonder Woman 2021 annual. Not what I have to read, but you and Connor potentially will be. Nice cover. I'll say that. There's a nice cover to that.
Oh yeah, that's a Garrett's cover.
Yeah.
That other one's real good too. The Deanda.
Oh yeah, that is very colorful. I like the colors on that.
That is almost a. If I don't have my phone background as Captain Carter right now, that would make a big push.
I feel like they don't give us the nice high res versions anymore to make the covers out of the wallpapers out of. There's a button here to maybe full screen it, but I don't want to risk like messing up my viewing.
No, I'm making a lot of headway being able to scroll without my Skype freezing, so I'm not going to do anything else.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. Justice League Dark annual. So this is I was saying earlier, the idea of the backups getting their own annuals. So that's obviously fun. This is Ram V and Dan Waters. Yep.
This next cover, I love it.
Oh, Superman. So Superman, Son of Kal-El annual issue. What is it? Do you know what? Week 5's looking really busy, surprisingly. There's a lot of annuals coming out on week 5 in November. The cover for this is great. This is Lex walking into John with his feet up on his desk. This is wonderful.
It's so disrespectful, and I love it.
Man, we get 2 oversized Tom Taylor issues this same week in November. Oh, man. Speaking of Superman, Son of Kal-El, next up, you've got issue 5 of that. I won't say much. I don't want to read it for spoiler's sake. I'll just say issue 5's coming. That's neat.
Yeah. Ooh, a box set. Oh! Sorry.
You're that excited by this?
Yes, well...
It's just Long Halloween year 1 and what's the other one?
Yeah, but that's, as you were saying about the Robin one, right? Them selling these as a set is a good call.
Oh, sure, yeah. For some reason, there's a couple of trades and box sets here. Kind of weird. And there's like a couple of the graphic novel, the collection for Rorschach is up. For some reason, there's a few things here, Strange Adventures hardcovers here, before you get to the rest of the solicits. Yeah, so then we get to Action Comics 1037. Not much to say except super excited. Warworld Saga Part 2. Nice.
Should be said that Sam Pierre said this is his last issue, 1037, and he's moving on to do a bigger project at DC. Didn't say what it was. I mean, so he says, don't be upset. You're gonna see him, and it's something a lot bigger. So
I'll be upset if the artist who replaces him on Action though sucks.
True. I mean, I get that, but like, at least seeing him do DC work, I'm okay.
At least for me, Junior's.
Don't.
I'll wait at Marvel. Yeah, he's at Marvel. He's not a danger, right?
I know, but still, we're gonna keep that hushed.
Okay. Aquaman:
Yeah.
The Becoming issue 3. That's that miniseries, of course, that's been going for a couple months by this point. Aquaman Green Arrow Deep Target issue 2. Obviously, that was in October Solicits issue 1. A weird, Raven the Bold style team up, but hey, why not? Why not? Admittedly, the writer doesn't make me think I'm going to love it, but I'll try it. We'll see how it is. Arkham City: The Order of the World issue 3. So this actually is the advanced solicit. We had issue 2 right at the start of the solicit. For some reason, the advanced solicit wasn't with it. It was down here. It's got a nice cover though. I'll say that much. The Dan Waters book. Batman 89 issue 4. So that'll still be going. So cool. Actually, do you know what? The cover for that kind of revealed something about issue 1 that I didn't get.
Okay.
So I'll mention that when I'm talking about the book, but I'll just say that. Batman Catwoman issue 9's coming out in November.
This is the Liam Sharp issue.
It's a nice cover, actually. It's a Catwoman on top of the bat signal.
Yeah.
Got a nice vibe. Batman vs Bigsby: A Wolf in Gotham issue 3, so that's still going strong. Batman Reptilian issue 6 is wrapping up that miniseries in November. Batman The Adventures Continue season 2 issue 6.
That's a great cover by Fornes.
And then issue 7, I assume that's an advanced solicit. It is indeed for December, so that's cool. And then Batman the Detective issue 6 wrapping up the Tom Taylor miniseries in November. So that's cool too. Batman Urban Legends issue 10, which is an advanced solicit. We already had issue 9 earlier. Again, this for some reason this is down here instead. Issue 10 is an advanced solicit for December. So there's not actually a lot of stuff in the text. It doesn't give you the 4 stories like it normally does. It's just like one little paragraph. But it does mention Teenie Howard making her DC debut on a Nightwing story. So, and there's an Oracle and Batgirl's Holiday Spectacular. So yeah, I'm into some of these things. So cool. Black Manta issue 3, that's still going. Checkmate issue 6, wrapping up that miniseries. I have to say, Matt, so Checkmate was last week, I think. And I was kind of down when I was reading it because it was bumming me out that I knew parts of like stuff was spinning out of it into Justice League, which I wasn't reading anymore.
Yeah.
It was making me feel like it wasn't going to have an ending.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. Right? For as high as I was on it, and someone that still begrudgingly reads Justice League.
There's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many new books starting like this. No, this month, but like October, November. That like it's probably going to be. It might even be an easy drop after like if I'm not feeling it like next issue. To be honest, which is a shame.
Yeah, I'm still reading it for Dark, but so I'll be picking it up, but. Yeah, the whole who is Damon Rose, and then like you found out the week before in Justice League.
I know. Yeah.
Just not good storytelling,
That was so awkward. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Crushing Lobo issue 6 coming out. That's 6 of 8. And then issue 7's also preemptively solicited for December. I mean, on the upside of that, December solicits are going to be quite short because all these preemptive solicits.
Yeah.
DC Horror presents Soul Plumber issue 2. So this is a new horror book starting in October, which I'll definitely be checking out because why wouldn't I? But not that I'm familiar with any of the people involved in this. Although I believe this is from the people behind the last podcast on the left. This was the
okay.
I think that was what the gist of this one was. So yeah, I'll check that out. Issue 3, advanced solicit for December again. DCV's Vampires issue 2. So this is Tynion. So this is a book that, of course, Tynion's name is going to be on for a while. Although he's not scripting. There was a whole backstory to this that Connor explained last month, where he came up with this concept because he didn't want to be involved in any of the 5G stuff. But then they put him on Batman when 5G fell through. So he actually had this all mapped out, and he's given it to Matthew Rosenberg to actually write the book. So that's how this came to be. But it sounded really fun from the description in issue 1, so no doubt this is going to be a hoot.
I don't want to do 5G. I want to do DC versus vampires. James, all right, calm down.
Yeah, Deathstroke Inc. issue 3. This is a book that I might be more excited about because of a story I read this week. So more on that later. Future State Gotham issue 7 is coming out, so that's still going along. Speaking of Joshua Williamson. Green Lantern issue... Oh, that's a nice cover on Green Lantern issue 8.
That's a Beautiful cover.
Yeah, that's nice.
You
I
know
really
who that is, right?
that's Kelly. Yes, Matt. Have you even read
Just
last
making
week's
sure.
Green Lantern?
I read that first half, and I still don't understand how you didn't get that was Cruz.
They never said she was Jessica.
It's in the context clues though.
Come
Like
on.
even without solicits,
Even
it was there.
even Simon says, "Who was that?" when she said his name.
Right. But just everything with the narration and all of
I
that.
look.
Yeah.
This is not the same thing. Like Connor's trying to compare us to that Starfire flub. That was a flub. I don't think this was a flub. I think this was a genuine like mystery. That
So
yeah, the clues were there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not denying those clues weren't
yeah.
there, but I
Yeah.
don't think this was me being completely stupid.
But see, I'm not calling you stupid. I'm just saying it's funny that you
Yeah, but Connor
didn't
will.
recognize one of your favorite characters. That's all.
I'm far more interested in the character now than it was Jessica Cruz, but I really like that story though. I love that story from Kelly's perspective.
Yeah, I just want to say, just reading it and not, I don't think I had seen any of that yet, but just reading that and how my brain works, trying to find all the, like who what is this referencing, especially when it comes to Green Lantern. I was like, well, that's got to be Cruz, right? Like talking about a person that's lived through fear and they experience it all the time. And then when he doesn't recognize her, that adds a little twist. Like, well, what's the yellow ring done to her?
When I was told who it was, I vaguely remembered, it sparked a memory. I remembered someone telling me that I think in Odyssey she got a yellow lantern, but I'd forgotten about it. It was because I don't think I read it. I think I just heard about it in passing ages ago. But my mind never went there, so whatever. But yes, but I enjoyed that issue quite a bit, and as much as the John stuff isn't as good, I still enjoyed it, and I liked where that ended. So I'd finished the issue, man. It's worth being up to date on.
I'll get to it. I still haven't gotten action in Superman. This is how behind I am.
Yeah. I'm sure you'll be back to close to full book form over as the weeks go on.
I'm going to try. I'm gonna try my best. Work just sucks
now. I'm sure it'll be fine. Just
if I could read comics while I work out, it would make things so much easier.
If you get some sort of stand for your tablet, like so it's in front of your face.
Here's the thing, though,
on the treadmill.
So when I do the treadmill, though, I'm not running. I walk on an incline, and I crank it up in intervals and stuff. Yeah, it's just better on your joints. I have a hard time watching TV like that when I put wrestling on.
Joe, they need
just because of the angle that it's at. Joe,
they need to make. They make a holder for it. It's like a steady cam that's synced to your body movement, so that it's perfectly in time with your head the entire time.
And I'm just afraid because I do get car sick if I read. If I don't put something in front of the window, and we're driving, and I'm reading, and I'm not driving and reading, guys. When someone else is driving, and I'm trying to read, I get car sick. I'm afraid that would happen if I was on the treadmill trying to read. Just the whole movement and stuff. If I could figure it out, man, I would. I could read so much more comics. I'd be unstoppable.
Look, you were 2 weeks behind at the start of this week. I think people will forgive you for not having everything up to date.
Yeah, I mean, but the two that I keep wanting to read is Action and Superman, Son of Kal-El. And I had to get these works out. I sell Strange Adventures still.
That issue is freaking great, Matt.
I'll get there. I'll get there. But that said, I told my coworker shush this week so I could read Rorschach in peace. That one needs full attention. So,
I like just focus on the books you need to be read for next week. Catch up on those and just go from there. One week at a time. That's all you need to do. Hardware Season 1 Issue 4, Harley Quinn the Animated Series, Eat Bang Kill Tour Issue 3, Human Target Issue 2. So this was something. This is the new Tom King book that's starting in October. It's a new 12-issue book, and you know what? Tom King 12-issue series on a smaller character is perfect.
Well,
realm.
I like. It looks like what's her name? Fire and Ice. So that looks like we are getting Justice League International stuff.
Oh yeah, I think they're
So-
definitely in the book. Yeah, obviously they're not the main focus, but they're definitely there.
No. But like just him writing that era should be fun. That's all.
Yeah, and I think he's got another project coming up as well. Presumably once these other books that are just wrapping up are done. And
Speaking of his covers, I saw one where he wrote "I'm sorry" in the corner, and I just I love that Tom King. He seems like a good guy.
Every issue of Heroes in Crisis he ever signs should have an "I'm sorry" after each time.
If I ever get them signed, because I do own them, I'm gonna ask him. Please.
You should take a selection of his different work that you've got and say, I just want a signature on these ones, but on Heroes in Crisis specifically, I'm sorry would be nice. An apology. Icon and Rocket Season 1 Issue 5, Justice League Issue 70. Still Bendis.
So that looks like it's no longer double shipping, right?
No.
Solicit?
The only thing that's double shipping in these solicits so far is Batman, which is cool because it's the sort of event style thing. Justice League Infinity Issue 5, Justice League Infinity Issue 6 is also advanced solicited for December. Justice League Last Ride Issue 7, the final issue of that's the Zarsky story, which had a decent first issue, but I fell behind because issue 2 was on a busy week and it wasn't that great to want to keep going with. Legends of the Dark Knight Issue 7, Looney Tunes 263, Mad Magazine 23, Nubia and the Amazons. Why is this after the Looney Tunes? Nubia and the Amazons Issue 2, and then Issue 3 is advanced solicited for December. Pennyworth Issue 4, Refrigerator Full of Heads. Oh, something interesting again. Is coming in November. Issue 2. Really nice cover as well, actually. It's you got that sunset in the background with the.
I am very curious because it's not Hill doing it. So I'm curious to see how different it's gonna feel. You know?
I really like that first book, but I'm definitely curious to see how this sort of sequel that's set in a different time period is going to fare. I'm really intrigued. Robin Issue 8. Yeah, still just some. The order of these solicits is a bit weird this time. I guess they're just in alphabetical order, but they're a bit odd. Static Season 1 Issue 6, Suicide Squad Issue 9, Suicide Squad Issue 10 gets an advanced solicit. That's weird because that's a regular book, but hey, whatever. So that's for December. Suicide Squad King Shark Issue 3 is coming out. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow Issue 5, obviously continuing the Tom King book. Superman 78 Issue 4. It's coming out in November as well. Teen Titans Academy Issue 9. Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries Issue 8. The Flash 776. The Joker Issue 9. Joker Presents a Puzzle Box Issue 4. Issue 5 of that is also advanced solicited for December. Nice House in the Lake Issue 6. So many books in these solicits. Nice House in the Lake Issue 6 for November. And it is worth mentioning that this is going on a 5-month break. Which wasn't always planned. That is not a surprise. This was another part of the news this week. Is that they always planned a break. There's going to be a cliffhanger at the end of this issue for that break. So,
really stringing us along, huh?
Yeah. Well, apparently it's just so to ensure that they have Martinez on the whole.
No, I know that, but I'm sure the cliffhanger is going to be a huge,
Swamp Thing Issue 9 is it, which is really sad because Issue 10 is the last one. So.
Yeah.
You got that Titans United Issue 3, which is a book I forgot existed, to be honest.
Me too.
Wonder Girl Issue 7. Oh, that's a nice cover, actually. It was simple cover. Simple cover, but nice cover.
And then the one after it's also very nice.
The variant?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you got Wonder Woman Black and Gold Issue 6. Then Wonder Woman 781. And that's out of the trades. Oh, we're done. Finally. Finally.
Well, Star Superman's getting a deluxe.
Yeah, I'm pleased they're still doing like the Cape Crusader collections, which is like that post-crisis Batman era of just Batman issues.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice that they're still going up to Volume 6. So that's kind of neat. So that keeps going. So yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting. How they collected in Urban Legends Volume 1. That's actually kind of an intriguing batch. How many?
Yeah. Now, do you think they're gonna put it in order, right? So like all the stories are in order, or do you
Oh,
think they'll
Matt,
just
your mic is going. It looks like it's only the Zarsky and Rosenberg stories, just based on the
yeah?
credits.
Oh snap!
It might just be those two 6 issue, or well, 6 and
Well, that
5 issue.
makes sense.
So yeah, I wonder if that means it's going to be like an anthology style for Volume 2, or are all those little stories in the middle going to be collected with relevant later stories that they're going to lead into, maybe. That's interesting. That's interesting to see how they'll collect that. But yeah, so okay. Neat. There you go. Finally, that is us. That is November's epic solicits. A lot of interesting stuff in there, and a lot of books that I think are quite interesting.
Mhm.
So that's interesting. Also, are they splitting Green Lantern Volume 1 into 2 books? Like one with the 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 John Stewart story and one with the other story?
I already clicked away, and I don't want to.
Oh, yeah, it's just fine. I'm just
Yeah.
noticing because there's like 2 different like texts for it, although there's only one title. Oh, it's kind
Or
of
maybe they'll split it down the middle.
yeah. It's
You know?
Green Lantern Volume 1 Invictus and
Yeah.
oh no, that's a separate book. Okay, maybe it is just all. Yeah, okay, maybe it is just all the stories. It's weird though. They've got like the format in here is really weird. It's like they're bleeding 2 solicit texts together because the Harley Quinn solicit was sort of like connected to it. Very strange. But hey, okay. So let's just click away from this because we have spent enough time on solicits.
Yes.
And we've already covered the news that was going to be brought up, which was the Tynion stuff. Which is sad to see him go. But what's Siri or whoever that is?
No, my phone went rogue. I was checking something, and a pop-up video decided to play, and I was trying to turn it down. So I'm having all kinds of issues today, guys. I apologize.
Matt's wife, Matt's cat, and now Matt's phone have all have all chimed in over the course of this show. Oh, wonderful. Let us get into the books then. Infinite Frontier, issue 4, Joshua Williamson writing with like 3 or 4 artists. Too many.
Yeah,
Too many.
we got Pelletier, off the top of my head, Zermanico. There's one more. Who's the last one?
My rule is if there's more than 2, I don't write them down. It's because it's just too much. It's too much.
God damn, Pete. Disrespect to the art.
It's not a disrespect.
If there's more than 2, I don't want to memorize it.
I'll mention them when I'm looking at the credits page, but I'm not, because my list here also acts as the timestamps, and you don't want to make them too long, or they're just like unwieldy. Yeah. Okay, that's it. I'm just keeping it nice and neat, formatting wise.
Just the way you said it, though.
I mean, just quickly, I guess. Did you enjoy issues 2 and 3? Do you like what the book's been doing?
Yeah, it feels very much like this is a direct descendant of Crisis.
Crisis, like. Because we were comparing it last time a little bit to 52. It felt a little 52-ish.
Yeah, I mean, especially this issue, I definitely get that.
Yeah.
But just with all the multiversal shenanigans and all of that kind of stuff at play, this is definitely it has its basis in a Crisis. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't call this a Crisis itself because it's not that big, but
It's dealing with the fact that the worlds are more aware that crises have happened because before they haven't. So there's a lot of obviously direct references
all the
to
worlds at this point as we learn. The other artist is Jesus Marino.
There you go.
There we go. But yeah, Williamson definitely, like, it all makes sense why John's handpicked him for Flash. There's a lot of similarities that Williamson likes to play with continuity and not just like changing things, but just like with the whole multiversal stuff. In the last page here and what he does there, it felt very John Zane to me.
Yeah, I think some of his ideas in Flash in the back half just weren't that good. I do also think part of it was that he was a victim of all the changes that were going on and maybe what he was like told he couldn't do and things like that.
Yeah.
So here we have Captain Carrot and Machine Head. So it kind of establishes Machine Head as a character because it's going to do something with him bigger later in the book.
This whole time I thought Machine Head was an actual machine because that's the world they come from. So seeing without the helmet, very Darth Vader-esque, right?
Yeah. You don't actually get to see it though. Obviously, you only see him from behind to kind of.
Yeah. So you see him from behind, but the helmet's off, and I was like, oh, I thought he was an android. You know. So I'm trying to see if I can get any information on Machine Head, like what Earth 8 is actually supposed to be. I'm trying to see.
Earth 8
No, it's just an
is
analog of Iron Man.
okay.
So from Earth 8, the Retaliators.
Okay.
But yeah, so I this whole time I didn't think there was a man in there, so that was a nice shock. But yeah, it sets off. Oh, okay. Earth 8 is where Lord Havoc. You remember that Bad Orlando Justice League book that we read
Oh
way
yeah.
back?
Yes. Just to give America. Yes.
So Lord Havoc and the Extremist comes from the same Earth. This he's part Machine Head's part of the Avengers. So there's a guy here that looks like if you mix Captain America with Shining Knight, you know,
Okay.
it's so this is where the world the Machine Head. I thought Machine Head came from the all robot world. So that's where my confusion came from. But yeah, anyways, you got Machine Head and Captain Carrot having
Yeah,
some
it's just setting up
moments here.
stuff for later. Just establishing they're there. President Superman's taking Thomas Wayne back to the White House on his Earth, where we get kind of a taste for just getting a bit more of his life and his first aid or whatever this woman's direct role is. She's kind of into him, and Thomas Wayne notices this. And we see that he's got kind of like a virtual fortress that he can kind of spawn in his office.
In the Oval Office,
yes.
I love that idea.
But they're trying to track down this Superman's Lex Luthor because he's probably behind the building of these devices, these ships, and they suit up and they go to find him and are surprised to find that he is already dead. That someone has already killed him before he could do anything or speak about who hired him or whatever else. It confirms on the next page that Cameron Chase did survive the explosion because obviously because it introduced last couple of issues that there were multiple DEOs and different Earths working together, and there's multiple of these ships. We were speculating that maybe this is just a different chase, but this confirms that it is the same chase. Right. Bones actually sent her there to kind of prove the threat that beings from other Earths and other universes could, prove to be for our main Earth or Earth Zero. And what's interesting here is so they've captured Alan Scott and Obsidian, and I actually kind of like the subtle touch here that the ship that they're about to leave on silver, because the one that's in space that we heavily focused on last issue is gold, just to make it very obvious that we're dealing with two different ships. And obviously all the people we know that are on that other ship, which I'm sure you were excited by when they all revealed themselves last issue. But yeah, so we have this what was this stupid name this woman who works for him as Extract, yes. So they're going on the ship, they're going to load them on there. Bones was not going to go, but Cameron Chase, and actually one of my favorite little moments of this book in terms of like a lettering / art moment is after Bones has spent like several pages talking about how look at this threat, all the greatest threats we've ever had have come from other worlds, other Earths, other universes. We have to fight back against this. We have to come to a solution. And it turns out that a lot of other worlds kind of agree with that sentiment. She shoots him in the leg and drags him onto the ship and says, no, we're all going together because she needs answers. I love the way the lettering of the word bang is sort of like italicized up against the trajectory of where the bullets went. I really like that panel. I think that's a great panel. That's good.
I like that. I also like that he seems to shift between realities from Director Bones to, what was his original name when he was a villain?
Oh, God, I can't remember.
With the cape, and stuff. Like, he shifts between it. But real quick, I just want to focus on the page before that with all of the threats, right? And just about how this is almost like a history of DC.
Yeah, he brings up like a hologram of like all these various multiversal people. So there's like you get like Golden Age Wonder Woman, Silver Age Wonder Woman, sort of Rebirth-esque Wonder Woman. Same with Batman and Superman and a bunch of other characters.
But over on the right side of the page, though, you got you got Monitor, you got Parallax, you got Monarch, Alexander Luthor, you got Pandora, the Batman Who Laughs, Superman Prime, Extant, a Brainiac, Professor Zoom, Doctor Manhattan.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like, just, and then on the opposite side with over there where you got what's her name
Perpetua.
from that was Perpetua, and Mixie, and then the Anti-Monitor, and it's just like, you know, as a longtime DC reader, I like stuff like this, like these little Easter eggs. But it really is Williamson going like, yes, I am playing in the continuity sandbox, and
Yeah.
everything is going to pull together. So I trust Williamson at this point. Like, he's putting these characters in here.
I mean, I don't know how much I trust all of this is going to be relevant necessarily, but I do trust that this is him saying, all of this mattered. All of this happened. All of it matters, and it's all. Think of all of it as we're going forward, and not everything was going to be relevant ultimately, but
like the fact that we got Dr. Manhattan right there next to the Anti-Monitor, like, just as a DC fan, like, that's wild.
Yeah, it establishes them as both being equally part of DC's canon, as it were.
Right, and so
it's really neat.
But yeah, and then and we get to the fun stuff with Infinity Inc. on the gold ship with Roy. And like, it can't be a mistake that's why these members of the Justice Society, right? Like, these were the next generation. This is the Atom Smasher and Damage and Wildcat 2 and Power Girl, Jade. You know, they don't have a home.
Yeah, because it says they sort of got together because they were trying to like figure out. Everyone came back after everything got reset. And when they were back at the the GSA headquarters, they got ambushed by Extract, and they all ended up on this ship. Although Jade technically ended up on the outside of the ship, but obviously was taken aboard. Because they're ready to fight Roy. They recognize he's a Black Lantern, but then she recognizes that it's Roy, and he calms down. And they're like, hey, why don't you just take the ring off? And he's like, well, I don't know if I'll stay alive if I take the ring off. And I just realized I just had a vision that my daughter's alive, so I'm not leaving until I've like met her and dealt with that. So
yeah, I love too that when she mentions, like, we were on the Titans and the Outsiders together. Like, that's my era when I started reading comics. Like, so just shouts out like that a small line that doesn't mean a whole lot, but to me it's a big reference point to when I started reading comics.
It makes it a lot more enjoyable when the all of the history that certainly from the last several decades is still intact to some extent. It feels so frivolous when they just throw it all away and start from scratch again constantly, which is part of why New 52 was so annoying. But
and so just that small little reference there, and him bringing up his daughter still being alive, like in that tie-in, what we know from Catwoman, and how's that going to play in? So, but yeah, then the gold ship gets to Earth Omega.
Yeah, which I mean, they don't know where the destination is. No. One of them says, "No, we need to find out where this leads." So they press the button, and then it's like Earth Omega. Oh shit! And then immediately Roy's like, "Hey, I saw this in a vision. This is like Darkseid's here." And we see Barry still in the big, cosmic hamster wheel. Psycho Pirate's making him do this. And then out of nowhere, the silver ship that we saw take off from Earth Zero crashes into them. It's just beamed here as well.
It like almost phases into them.
Yeah. The front of the ship just gets, like disintegrated basically. Like presumably most of our main characters are further back in the ship, so it's fine. But do we have this big crash landing? All the sound effects of the Maydays, which actually transitions nicely back into President Superman and Flashpoint and Batman, who are in like his fortress, and they've got the Machine Head. Oh no, sorry, not the fortress. They're in the House of Heroes.
The House of Heroes.
Machine Head's basically built one of these ships out of the plans they got from the dead Lex Luthor's hideout, and you're like, okay, so they're going to go and they're all going to converge at Earth Omega, and that's where he wants to go. And then all of a sudden, there's an emotional beat for Batman. I'm skipping over. I'll go back to that in a second. Yeah. But all of a sudden, Machine Head swerves. He makes a heel turn. It turns out that him and a lot of other characters from various worlds have all agreed that they shouldn't be mingling, and all it does is create problems and crisis and chaos. So they've all agreed. Now, how much this connects to the DEO stuff, I don't know for sure yet. Maybe it will, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's completely separate. But yeah, he attacks the rest of the Justice Incarnate, and he beams aboard like a bunch of his allies, and we see like a Joker from an Earth where he's a Yellow Lantern. We see
Magog, who kicked off last issue.
Yeah, we see a Savannah, right? I think that is
Superwoman from Earth 3.
From Earth 3.
Doomsday from the Action Comics run that Morrison did. Where he's that's the guy whose head gets cut off right there.
Yeah, I didn't recognize him, but I'll tell you what for it.
And then Dr. Fate, when they try to make him like an edgy 90s Liefeld character. So yeah, again, this is the type of page that I feel it feels very Johnsy, where not just because you're pulling all these characters from different things, but like Machine Head's whole reason is we fought a secret war and I lost and I don't lose. And Earth Zero is the problem. This is all, so we're gonna basically take out Earth Zero and disconnect everything and go back to being separate.
Yeah,
I mean that's how I read it.
No, that's more or less how I read it as well. I'm curious to see how this plays in. We got the big reveal last issue of the young JSA characters all being back. This issue we got this team of extra villains, this third party that are up to no good as well. So it is very Johnsy in the sense that every issue seems to have a big reveal towards the end that we can really sink our teeth into and go ooh and ah, and it makes some amount of sense, at least so far. I do want to focus a little bit on the Thomas Wayne moment though, because he's feeling kind of guilt. He doesn't want to go back to Earth Zero because he doesn't want to. He everything he tried to do in Tom King's Batman run, he feels guilty. He tried to do all this, and he doesn't want to see the damage he caused. And he gets a glimpse, though. He sees Batman with the Bat family, who are kind of reformed at this point, and they are, we've been seeing this in the Bat books that they are more unified again. And he's like, hey, he's got a family. He's actually in a better place. And he sees like a visual of like all the different Batmen, right? He sees Batman Beyond's in the background. We recognize a few of the others, but he sees that all these different Earths all have a Batman. They're all Bruce Wayne, and he comes to this realization because his whole thing is that he was like, no, because of what happened to his version of Thomas and Martha, he became Batman, and he felt that Bruce shouldn't be Batman. He should be Bruce, and that he shouldn't have to have this this calling that he's dedicated himself to. And he has this moment where he looks up and realizes that he was always going to be Batman. Like, he's Batman in all these Earths. Like, my Earth where I became Batman is the exception. My Earth's the oddity.
And that one doesn't exist anymore because he's a fragment of it. So
he smiles as he says this and sort of realizes that no, my son was always going to be Batman. I found that an oddly sweet moment, and I think what I like about this, and what's so good here about the editorial of this, is that sometimes, and especially in New 52, you got the sense that, okay, you may have like a guest starring character from another book who'll pop into something, but you got the feeling that they weren't allowed to have any real character development until they were back in the book they were supposed to be in, because they'd be too worried about, like, that has to happen in the main book that the character's from, because they can't have development, because otherwise the readers won't, everything has to be self-contained. And I think, in the same way that, it can feel like almost like a filler appearance where they'll show up, but they won't do anything of note other than just have like a fun appearance because they can't have any advancement. I kind of like here that, a character like Thomas Wayne can just kind of continue elsewhere and have an important story beat for themselves. And this actually makes it more exciting that if he ever does meet regular Batman again, if he ever meets our Bruce Wayne again, it'll be informed by this realization that he's had, where we'll go, oh, this is actually interesting because he came to this conclusion that you were always going to be Batman, and I was wrong to try and change that. I was wrong to try and alter that.
And just the idea that he looks at him with the Bat family, he goes, no, he has a family.
Yeah.
It's not this lonely pursuit that, when we saw him pop up in King's Run, of him trying to convince him not to be Batman anymore because of all the pain and that it causes. And I feel like, again, that's Williamson here adding tags onto things that make, to me, that makes that King stuff pop a little bit better because of the realization he has here.
Whenever I get around to someday rereading that King run, I think I'll like some of this Flashpoint Batman stuff better because I know where he ultimately leads up. It does improve it a little bit, not much, but a little bit.
No, but a little, and and it was a really nice moment. And we all know how I am with Batman stuff,
Mhm.
but just hear him seeing his, like, no, this is what he's meant for, almost like it's a destiny thing. Like there's always got to be a Batman, and on his Earth, like you said, it was Thomas, and those circumstances are far worse than most of these other ones, right? That
Yep.
we're looking at here. So, but it was just really, really good. And then just that heel turn with Machine Head. That now that I look at his face, he's got a Tony Stark mustache, So
He's also got a bit of a Deadpool sort of thing
yeah, a
going,
little
where he's
bit.
not in the best of health by the looks of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say I think this issue has probably the best emotional peak because of that Batman moment, and I think issue 3 might be my favorite overall for plot because it just introduced so many cool things with the GSA characters. It kind of felt like it was starting to come together because it revealed the DEO stuff, what Bones was up to. But I'm enjoying it. I think it's a really fun, wider continuity book that's playing with a lot of characters who don't otherwise get to be used as often, and that's kind of neat. So anything that can come out of this for a lot of these characters that we like and we want to see more of, I'm all for it. So the art is kind of the same story as it's been the whole book, which is obviously get multiple artists, it's inconsistent. Paul Thier is definitely the weakest of the three artists, typically, I would say. At least just for me.
But I still like it though. I like that I can recognize Pelletier from, when it does take over. But I would say that Marino and Zermanico complement each other a little bit more.
Yeah. I like I say, my favorite moment is probably the gunshot from Chase to Bones in the leg. I think it's a really great moment just from like a beat in the story, but also just the way it's done with the art and the lettering. But a lot of good beats in this one. Excited to see where it goes. So, and excited to see, like, how this dark side stuff plays out, because Chase points out that he said the what do you call him, Atom thing we did.
Wait, what?
Captain Atom.
Yeah.
He said Darkseid is before he died.
Right.
So I'm really curious to see all the Darkseid stuff playing out.
Gotcha. I don't know if you're referring to one of the Justice League or Justice Society members.
I know. There's so many.
You got Atom Smasher, you got Damage.
Yeah.
He has an Atom, and I was like, wait, which one are we talking about? Because they were also talking about Darkseid, which I do like that Williamson is playing into there's only one Darkseid, right? Like Darkseid's not a multiversal. Like there's one Darkseid, and I kind of like that. Like he's a Nexus being, if you will.
Yes, if we put all this into wrestling terms again, if Darkseid was to come out to some entrance music, it would be the Chetney Hawkins, the one and the only, which is a very British pop song. But if you've seen the movie Moon, it features in that because it's ironic in that movie. I am the one and only.
Yeah, that's very ironic when you know
yes. No one I'd rather be. Also, it's just a funny visual thinking of Darkseid coming out to that.
That director was going to do so many good things. Then he did Warcraft, and we never heard from him again.
Oh no, I heard from him again. I saw Mute, and it was terrible.
Oh no, that's Paul Rudd too, right?
Oh, Paul Rudd plays like such a weird creep in that movie as well.
Oh man, that's a shame.
Yeah, it's not a typical Paul Rudd role. I'll tell you that much. All right, Matt, what are you rating?
I'm gonna give an 8.5.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. 8.5, but it's a really solid. They're getting a lot of the big stuff that it's doing. I think Joshua Williamson is actually a surprisingly good fit for this type of story with all these different characters. Because I was a little bit down on him towards the end of Flash, but clearly between this and Robin, he's got a lot of juice left in him. So cool. Detective Comics 1041. Mariko Tamaki writing, Dan Mora on the art. So this is the second part of the jury story, which was a really fun reveal last issue. And so did you? I'm going to assume no, but I'll ask just in case. Did you read the Huntress Secret Files?
I did.
Oh, you did. Oh, good.
Yeah, it's Tamaki. I try to read.
Yeah. Well, because Connor didn't, and I read that and went, by the way, Connor, this literally ties into everything that's going on in Detective, and even says at the end to be continued in Detective Comics.
Yeah.
Issue whatever.
Which I did like there because it was kind of like a murder mystery with her being able to like precognitive stuff because of Vile.
Yeah. Well, it's not so much precog. It's more. So just to explain this for anyone who didn't hear what I said about that issue or didn't read the Huntress issue, is that Huntress, because she was infected and is now being cured, she actually can now occasionally see through the eyes of other people who have been infected, and obviously the people who are infected by this parasite eventually kill for Vile. So and that issue ended with a cliffhanger of Bruce Wayne is infected. We have to find Bruce. So obviously this issue has this kind of hanging over it, where all issue you're kind of like, how are we going to get to that point? Like, where are we going with this? And it was actually a really neat thing where, you know, eventually turns out to be the jury have weaponized it into a bullet. They've taken like a sample from Hugh Vile and put it into a bullet capsule.
So I don't like Vile at all, but seeing them rip his mouth open and pull out a piece of him to put into the bullet was brutal.
Oh yeah, super nasty.
Yeah.
The world building that Tamaki's done with like building her Gotham, and obviously incorporating the Cano and the other elements that have been set up elsewhere, but you know, just starting with like talking about how we have to, like, you know, fix the subway system now, the infrastructure, because of all those explosions that have already happened. Having Deb like yell in the hospital when they mention those survivors that have been cured, so they can cure this if they find them. It's, you know, it's not incurable.
Yeah. So when we know that Bruce was infected, like we know because Huntress was cured, but trying to cure a Batman that has a Vile worm, whatever these are.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a challenge, I bet.
Given how skilled he is, It's the example I think of. You know the scene in Kingsman. So the thing in Kingsman is that there's a signal that will turn people into just like chaotic murderers, and in Kingsman there's a great action sequence in a church because Colin Firth's character happens to be like a highly trained super spy. So he's affected just like everyone else is, but because he's got the training, he wipes everyone else out because they're all not trained and he is. So that's what I'm thinking. Really, that's what I'm thinking here with Batman, is that because he's Batman and he's as skilled as he is, they're going to have a hard time catching him. So that's a lot of fun. So the big cliffhanger last issue of Detective is that his new apartment was blown up. So
can't catch a break.
He goes down into the sewers, and his like base has been blown up as well. Although it was probably like security measures to stop anyone from finding anything. But all the same, as he points out, still means he has no equipment. So
the scene that cracked me up is when he's talking to Oracle at the diner. And if you look at Mora's art, the guy that's in the foreground has eyes on Bruce as he's talking about stuff blowing up. And him not being able, and it's just the look of him, like this dude's nuts.
All they are, like him running in the tunnels from when he hears the police coming out of the manhole. The little comedy beat where this woman with a baby, or that's a little dog, runs away, and he's like, fair. Because obviously he knows it looks creepy, him coming out of this manhole with the hoodie up. And I love that he has to find like a place where he can charge his phone so he can call Oracle, because none of his tech is like operational. And they tease that new Batgirl outfit. She's sitting there in the clock tower, in the watchtower, and there's just the Batgirl outfit's like, you know, sitting up, you know, at the wall. So that's neat. And she's like, hey, you've got some backup equipment at the docks, but it's old equipment. So it's this great page where you see him in the blue cape with the yellow oval, and it's this old school outfit.
I was going to ask if Dan Moore just wanted to draw that suit, so they worked it in, but then I was like, wait, he doesn't color his own art.
Yeah. Oh, and he's got trunks as well. So I didn't even think about that before, but he's got the trunks. Yeah, this was great. I love blue cape era Batman as an outfit. So I was all about this. And then the next page is this great, it's like another full page spread of him looking out the set. It's basically Gotham's Times Square, and all of the like screens all say Batman, you know, deliver Bruce Wayne, you know, then signed the jury.
So Worth can't figure out that Batman and Bruce Wayne are the same person despite fighting, you know, being in the same room, which I love. I just love that idea. They're just big and dumb. But they want Batman and Bruce Wayne for the jury. Yeah. And it's just, to me, it's just a nice little touch from Tamaki there.
Do you know what I think about this? Is that I feel like this Times Square-esque area of Gotham, well, it's always kind of had areas like this. I feel like this is the exact same one that was shown in Future State that Tamaki did.
Yeah.
It feels like there's a consistency of like, oh, this is a set piece of the city.
I didn't think about that until you just mentioned it. That makes a lot of sense, though.
Yeah. That's kind of neat. So we cut to the jury, which is Worth, Penguin, and the whoever Falcone's left.
You got some people from the
Yeah.
Falcones, and some. I've heard some other crime family names get brought up.
Yeah, the art here is like Batman showing up in silhouette, the way he's all in the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts talking to Worth, and he tries to say, the police looked into Bruce Wayne, he's innocent, and Worth just won't accept it, and he tells him to open fire, and so it's all nice shadowy art, and then you have this great stuff where it's just all these like lines of gunfire aiming at Batman and him like dodging. There's a great panel, one of the ones that I like, because the panels are all obviously like normal panels for the most part. There's some angled panels that when Worth slams his hands, that's in a sort of like angled panel with a sort of like kind of stretched out corner.
Mm-hmm.
But it's mostly in regular like boxes and rectangles and squares. And then you get to the gunshots, and it's all angular. It's all different, and to give you the sense of the action. The one that I really like is the panel of all of the actual guns firing, and they're all sort of pointing down. I just love this idea that they've assembled a firing squad because they know what Batman's like. So no, just get a line of people all with machine guns so that there's no like space to like get this wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know, like everything about this action set piece just really worked for me. Really into that in the art. And then we get like a little flashback to like them, because we knew they had Vile. That was like part of the cliffhangers last issue.
Right.
But we see like a flashback all in green of them ripping out like part of his parasite and taking a sample. It had been loaded into a gun, and then of course someone fires it at Batman, and he falls down and starts to turn, and he's all demented. And that's when it cuts back to Huntress, who's like, "Hey, Oracle, like where's Batman? We have to find him. He's infected. Don't ask me how I know. I just do." And sure enough, the cliffhanger's Batman, looking all demented with the red eyes, and he's ready to go for blood. I mean, I don't want to just say it's perfect, but it's pretty much perfect.
It's pretty good. I wasn't expecting it to go to the places that it did. I figured like they would cure Bruce before it set in,
Mm-hmm.
Like it would just be one of those comic cliffhangers that resolves itself real quick. But no, they're really going for it.
It makes sense, given the Huntress issue. It makes sense because she only sees through his eyes once he's infected, so it makes sense that it's not until he's actually infected in this moment that this is the same moment she's seeing it, and that's why she's calling Oracle. So it all does tie up really nice.
Yeah.
Between that one shot and then this main story. Yeah, I mean the art is phenomenal. Like we've been swapping between Dan Mora and Bogdanovich, and it's like really hard to get. I mean, I think I like Mora's art a bit more, but it's like Bogdanovich is still so good. But this Mora art is just like it's so clean and pulpy. The coloring's so colorful and vivid.
It was a nice embrace when you open it up and it's the Dan Mora art.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, not that there's anything wrong with Bogdanovich but Bogdanovich is the director. The other guy, Victor. Not that there's anything wrong with his art.
That's Bogdanovich. What are you talking about?
It is Bogdanovich. I'm sorry again.
I was like,
I was asleep.
I thought you were going to like correct yourself slightly, as if you'd pronounced it just slightly wrong, but then you sort of
I thought maybe I did, but anyways, no, it's just like a nice embrace, and you're just like, oh, okay, yeah. It's like Batman's almost the character that Mora was meant to draw, and then you get to that Times Square page, and everything just works with the colors and the inks and everything, and you feel the vibrancy there, like in the future state, which I should have put the connections together, of that neon Blade Runner-esque. This is slightly different, but it has the same vibrancy.
Yeah. No, I I've been loving this book, and I think last issue I really dug. This issue I think is just as good, if not even better. I'm loving the world that's built in Gotham. I'm loving this collection of villains that are now working together. Deb Donovan, who then goes into this backup here, and honestly, the fact that these backups are still so good. This one's setting up another story, of course. That's a different book, but I love that it's using Deb Donovan to do it. It's using a character that was set up in this very book, but using her and her journalism to set up then this Suicide Squad or Task Force Z that's coming, which is going to be Williamson, right?
No, it's
Rosenberg. Sorry, yeah. I'm mixing up my names here, but yeah, Rosenberg is going to go out and do that book. So I love that Rosenberg is setting that up in the context of using this detective backup, but it's still making it feel like it's relevant to detective by using a character from detective that is unique to a detective. Like, I don't know, like the way this is all coming together is all like very nice. So yeah, so the Deb Donovan story again, where I think it very intentionally evokes the start of year one because it starts off in the monorail in the city, and she tries to interview the head of transit. There's a fight in the train, so they have to go away. But someone slipped a note in her pocket. We don't get to see what it is right away, but she goes to the morgue to see some bodies, and she pays off the guy. And immediately, I was like, oh, this is how both the death of Bane in A-Day and also the death of Man-Bat in that pretty good backup story from an issue or two ago is actually going to be relevant to something. Because it did say at the end of that Man-Bat story, continues in Detective Comics, and it's like, oh, wait, Arkham Knight's disappeared, so, you know, she's still going to be around in some capacity. But I was like, okay, all right, it's setting up that someone's going to use these corpses of these villains as some sort of zombie Suicide Squad. Someone tries to kill her, Batman shows up to save her, tells her to drop the case. She goes to Vicky Vale and sort of like shares notes and says, hey, what advice you got? But she's got her attitude, she's got her kind of like, no, I'm not dropping this, you kidding me? Vicky's like, hey, Batman, if Batman says something, like, it's probably wise to follow it. The reveal at the end of this year is when she goes home, the person who gave her this note to go and check out the bodies was Red Hood. So Jason's sitting there eating her cereal. In fact, that final bit of narration, the story found me and it's eating my effing cereal, I thought was a really funny
that is a good one
to it. So this is this is just part one of this. So this is going to at least be a few parts of these backups. Is going to be the build up to this Task Force Z, which is going to be its own book once it's set up. Good backup. If the goal of this was to feel like a solid backup and also to make me interested in this Task Force Z book, it did an okay job at that.
You got Bane and Man-Bat, so that's doing most of the heavy lifting for me, right?
Sure, yeah.
But then you actually plot out the story that's gonna make me care, and it's right there. So yeah. Plus, Deb Donovan's one of those characters. She's a nice addition to the Gotham gallery of citizens, you know.
Yeah, because she's not like, Vicky Vale's like the hotshot reporter, but she's kind of the sexy on camera reporter. This is your no nonsense. I don't give a shit. Right. I'm going to get the story and piss everyone off. Character.
It's like during whose run was it on Nightwing where they brought him back to Bloodhaven, and he had Svoboda.
Yeah. See, I'm going to see kind of
yeah, and so just getting vibes of that. Just like this is a good addition to the supporting cast because they are so unique.
Yeah, the art in this backup's pretty good as well. It's Derek Robertson who's on the art. It does feel a little bit more old school. It feels a little 90s, I'd say, but it's a little bit. It's a little bit. It's a solid 90s though, for lack of a better term. With deep inks, all that kind of stuff, which is good for Batman. You want the shadows, you want all that kind of moodiness to kind of pop. So that's cool. Yeah, all right, we can rate both stories. What are you giving the main story?
I'm gonna give the main story a 9.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 9.5. I'm gonna one up it. It's exactly what I have a Batman book, to be honest. Backup,
I'm gonna give a 7.5. Like, it was really good, but
Yeah, I think I'll half a point up. I'll say I think this is the only book where I'm excited and continuously feeling like I'm being rewarded for reading the backups. Like, I don't even hesitate now. Unless I see like a creator who I hate, maybe I don't think I'm going to hesitate when it comes to the backups and detectives. So that is an achievement in and of itself. So good stuff. All right, cool. So this is the part of the show where I talk for a long time, and Matt will chime in where he can. But Matt, because he was so behind in his books, didn't read a few of these coming up.
Well, and I to be fair, I think I'm done with Gotham. What's that one?
Future State?
Not well, that one. The big one.
Urban Legends?
Yeah, I want to read Urban Legends. I don't know if I'm gonna have time going forward. If it's gonna be like this, and have to prioritize other ones.
Sure, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What's funny is that I kind of felt like I might be winding down with it after the Zarsky stories wrapped up, but then I really liked some of the other stories in this one, so like, it feels like something that I might dip in and out of if I'm depending on how busy the week is, but also what stories are in it and how if they sound interesting or what. But
I mean, I still have to finish the Teardrop story. I'm invested in that one. I just haven't had any time to read big ones. So
it's a bit of a bat block as well. Like these next 3 books that only I read out of the 2 of us are all Bat books. So start with I Am Batman issue 0. John Ridley writing, Travel Foreman on art. And I have to say I'm not like as enthusiastically positive about this as I thought I was going to be. And part of it's a little bit on me, because I forgot that I hadn't read the last issue of the digital series.
You gotta get there.
Which is a bit of a shame. But I was thinking, but this is an issue 0, which is leading into an issue 1. It should be new reader friendly, and the fact that I read most of that series means that I should have a better start than most do. But it did kind of feel like it just kind of assumed that you knew a lot. It just kind of feels like it expects you to be just keeping up with Jace and all of his stories so far. And I get why you might want to do that a little bit, but it did feel like it was maybe a little unfriendly if you didn't have an understanding of various things to do with Jace. And I think the fact, especially the next issue, which is an issue 1, although I think issue 0 this also applies to, is that it should be friendly to new readers. But so much of it, like there's a flashback to Jace when he was training. He's moving out of his parents' place because this is still obviously present day, and it brings into the idea that there's a lot of riots going on in Alleytown right now into the plot, which is nice because it's syncing up with Catwoman a little bit. And it's dealing with the supporting cast that Jace has had, such as Montoya. Montoya grills out a cop for basically fighting with rioters. But they weren't in a riot. They were having a protest that was planned. They had permits for it, and they hadn't started any trouble. It was the police that started trouble. So it's bringing in some of these topical issues. Even brings up the fact that the protesters are wearing masks. Although the reason why they're doing that is because ever since the A-Day attack, the Alleytown has basically there's remnants of gases and stuff, so they're all being safe. So it's kind of bringing a topical thing into it, but in its own context. Unlike that Azarello book from last week, which just straight up started talking about the insurrection.
Boy.
Me and Connor went on a whole rant about that last week. That was that was a discussion. And it sets up again these cop characters who are the main one who's kind of anti-vigilante, her partner Whitaker, who is a bit more pro-vigilante. But if you hadn't read the digital book, you might be a little less connected to the fact that this love interest from Jesse's past, Hadja, who was in one of the flashbacks in that story. She shows up here and they have kind of a moment together. He's got an old war tech batsuit that he's got his computer try to decrypt. Or his partner over the comms try to decrypt so he can use the suit, which he does by the end of the issue. He steps in to help the police and the protesters who basically set off because some of the bad guys who are kind of in the book intentionally start shooting at the police to start to kick things off. But he ends up making things look worse because he shows up right away, so it kind of looks like he started it. So hey, why is Batman instigating riots and being the enemy of the people and so on? So he feels very conflicted about that. The big complaint I have, though, is that there's a whole plot with him going to a ship that's coming in because these bad guys are up to something, and I don't really feel that the issue really set up the context for who's behind this, who the main bad guy is that's hired these people, or why it matters to Jace, or why he's trying to stop it. It all kind of felt like stuff that was just kind of lingering from his other books that he's had before, which is a bit of a shame. So I felt a little bit kind of disconnected from that. And I know you can say, oh yeah, you should have finished the other miniseries. I should have, but it is an issue 0. I feel like it probably should be relatively friendly.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I mean, that mini was pretty good. I mean, for being digital first, it was just the format I was never a fan of.
Yeah, the format I didn't like either. Yeah.
No. So, but no, you're right. An issue 0, she shouldn't have to be. It shouldn't feel like a continuation. You
Yeah.
know, so
So it just kind of
that's
ends
a
with him
shame.
saying he has to be something else. He has to,
Yeah.
take the symbol that his father helped build and sort of turn it into something that represents something he's proud of instead.
Hmm.
So it says,
Fair enough.
next time, I am Batman begins, basically. Which is a neat play in words. But I have to admit, like, I might not read this going forward. And part of it, it's not because I don't trust it to be better than what I think this issue is, because I'm sure it's going to be fine, if not really good.
Hmm.
But because it is kind of like an extra book on top of so many books that are launching that I do think look really good in the coming months.
Hmm.
I think there is going to be some competition for what I spend my time reading for the show, and I think this one, it feels a little less essential now, having read this issue 0, versus like all of these other Bat books, and I know it's kind of a shame because this relatively new character.
Yeah.
I do want to give time to new characters, but
Hmm.
and it is well told enough, but it doesn't necessarily feel like, because I guess what I was expecting from this, I was expecting this to be kind of moved on to like a new chapter in Jesse's story, and it still kind of feels like it's dealing with plot threads from that digital miniseries. And it's not just that I am a little not lost, but like not quite getting all the details because I didn't finish that book. But
Right.
I was hoping it'd be more of a fresh start and say, no, that wrapped up, and now he's starting his new chapter and has a new goal. Instead, it feels like it's kind of just rolling into this, and it still feels like we're dealing with the same kind of vague. He trained and was kind of like a spy, and now he's like
Hmm.
shifting to vigilante. I was kind of hoping for more of a fresh, more definitive new start of him like going on his path to being like a back character, and
Yeah.
so I think
And
because of my somewhat disappointment of that, combined with the fact that there's a bunch of books coming, this might be an easy drop, especially come next month when I look at the week and I go,
yeah.
do I want to read issue 1 of that, or do I want to read this other book that
Well,
started, or this or whatever?
the string endorsement doesn't make you want to go back and grab it when I have time. Even if it's just near issue 0. Maybe I'll just pick up the
Yeah.
first issue when it does come out. But I know I enjoyed the digital first for the most part. It definitely feels like they told Ridley they were doing 5G and we want you to write Batman. And so he wrote a bunch of stuff, and they're just kind of like, well, we can't just sit there,
I like the supporting characters,
you
and
know?
I like the stuff it's doing with the fact. Like, I think I'm going to make a point of reading issue 1 because there is a chance that issue 1 will actually feel like I wanted it to. Because this ends with him saying, I have to, become sort of my own version of a Batman.
Hmm.
Maybe issue 1 will feel more definitively like a fresh start because it is just going to be him starting off in that journey. Maybe it'll explain the villain
Yeah.
that he's going after better. So yeah, I think I'll make a point in reading issue 1, but I am a little. Right now, I'm feeling like this might be an easy drop. If I don't feel like it is a bit more like a nice start come issue 1, it might be an easy drop just to make room for other things because there is a lot starting over the next few months that I do want to read.
No, for sure.
For
sure.
So it could be a casualty. But this issue, I'd probably give it like a 6.5. It's fine. It's not
Okay.
a bad issue. It's not a badly written comic. And Foreman's art solid. So
And that's the thing. Ridley's a really good writer.
yeah.
Right? Like so far, I haven't been disappointed by anything that he's written, even if it feels superfluous, like the one that was in the back of that Gotham Underground, where he got his Robin, or Future State, not Underground. I don't know what I'm talking about. Either way, but yeah, but he's a good writer.
Yes.
Screenwriting translates to comics pretty well. So, and they've given him good artists. So yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah. And I hate to fall back on that. Also, it doesn't feel that important, because that shouldn't really necessarily be what you base your comic reading on. But it does kind of feel like it is more skippable in terms of being connected. Now, admittedly, at some point he's probably going to interact with some main Bat family members, and it'll probably be interesting and entertaining and worth a look. So I'll see how issue 1 is. I hope I'm into issue 1 more because I was expecting to really like this, and it kind of left me going, oh, it was just okay. So I hope I feel better about issue 1, and we'll take it from there. Cool. Batman Urban Legends issue 6, and this is a big issue for this because it's the culmination for the first story arc. The first story. It's not the first culmination. We had the culmination to the Grifter story last time, which was a little disappointing because it was mostly set up for Wildcat stuff.
Oh.
Did you not read that yet? The last one?
No. No. I read the Teardrop story, but I didn't get to Grifter.
It felt like less of an ending and more like, oh, by the way, he's been working with a bunch of other Wildcat characters to be continued soon.
Like, I'm happy Rosenberg gets to write Wildcats, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's cool. But and this is what I mean by having time for stuff. Like, Urban Legends cool, but
someone who grew on that character because of just the focus being on Grifter and kind of liking how it was written, but not caring about Wildcats as a whole. The ending being revolved around, hey, look, here's all these Wildcats team members being like, Now
I have a morbid curiosity. I need to go back and.
Yeah. That said, though, the Cheers drop story was really good last issue, and again, this finale is really good.
No, I read that one.
Oh, sure.
That's the only one from Urban Legends I did read because that took the priority because Zdarsky worked me over real well. So I'm curious to see how this ends, and I'll kind of half listen while you discuss it. So I can, I do it for Connor when he talks about Undiscovered Country.
So Jason's talking to Babs, saying, "Okay, I need like a suit to go and like save Batman. We have one sample of an antidote from the lab that we were at last time, and he doesn't have an outfit with him though. So he's in like one of the mini Bat caves. So it's sort of implied that he's about to take a bat suit, and dress up in that. And sure enough, he does. He doesn't take the cowl though. He basically takes a bat suit, but just has his own little face mask with the bat suit. So it's it's like, okay, he's taking a Bruce suit, but he's not trying to pretend to be Batman or anything. Teardrop's hamming it up with all of his villains that he's got under his control. So like I say, he's got the bat suit on, but he's wearing his own sort of red face mask and like eye mask. And there's a bit of a fight. There's some action. The art's pretty good. The main thing that happens is that Cheer is able to like infect him with Teardrop, but it's not like the super like strong dose that Bruce got, and Jason's able to fight through it. But it's basically showing Jason a happy idea, and it's just effectively he's in the mansion. He sees a painting of the Joker having been killed. That he's succeeded, and he's with Bruce. It's like it's time for no more masks, so he gets a happy ending. And yeah, everyone's there. The whole Bat family's there. They're all happy. But he snaps out of it. He's able to fight back, and he takes on Cheer. Cheer's a malicious prick, though. He actually threatens Jason with the mother of the son that obviously was a big part of the first couple of issues, and says, "Hey, if you keep fighting, if you don't let this happen, I'm going to have her killed." And it's this super sad thing. But luckily for Jason, the rest of the Bat family come, jumping into scene. We have Dick, we got Duke, we got Steph, we got Cass, we got Batwoman. All of them jump in, full happy Bat family vibes. They all fight together. Babs has had someone else. Who was it she said? What did she say? She sent someone else to the hospital to take care of the guy who was going to kill the woman. But regardless, he's able to give the antidote to Batman. Batman chases Cheer onto the roof, but he's clearly still affected by this because he's really angry and he's like dangling him over the edge in the pouring rain. And and it's actually Jason who tells him to calm down, and he sort of throws Cheer to the side, and he's kind of all like sort of like sad in the rain for a moment. There's a sweet scene where Jason gives the little boy a blue hoodie because, of course, if you remember, he picked the name Blue Hood. So it's kind of a sweet little moment. Leslie's setting her up with like the mum a place to stay and giving her rehab, and Bruce is like really sad outside, and Jason and him share a moment. Jason says he's given up the guns. He says, "Look, you know what? Like, I still think some villains deserve to die, but clearly, like the death like spreads to other people. Like, someone died and it spread to this kid, and he can't kind of live with that effectively." So he's changing how he does things. He's not even going to use rubber bullets anymore. He's going to use new tactics. And probably so the middle of the issue showed you what Jason saw when he was on Sheer, and it was this idea that he finally got to kill the Joker, and then they all got to live with no masks forever after that. And we find out from Bruce, Leslie asks, what did you see? What did that cheer gas show you? That scared you so much. And he says, no, it wasn't fear. I'm used to fear. I face fear every day. It showed me happiness. And the end of the story shows you what Bruce saw. And it shows you him with the Bat family, and they're all out of costume, and they're all happy. But the actual happy part is that Jason's got Joker, and he lets Jason kill Joker. And that's kind of like the happiness. And what I love about this is that we know that, Bruce has always said it's not that he doesn't sometimes fantasize or think that the right thing to do would be to kill the Joker. He says that it's a choice he has to fight every time, because if he makes that choice, he crosses a line. It's just that famous speech from Under the Hood, right? It would be so easy to cross that line, and then once he's done it, he would never come back from it. So that's the scary part, is that he got to feel what it would be like to actually do it for a moment. And the end of the story is just that he's left Jason a note to invite him to family dinner, with a new version of his outfit since his previous one got wrecked. And that's the end of the story. Really solid. Really solid stuff. It's mostly the fight and mostly these two hallucinations from the cheer stuff. But it was fun seeing the Bat family all show up to help. And then seeing the little boy again and having Jason give him a goodbye was really nice as well. This was a really good story by Zdarsky. And Marcus Toe in the art has been... Well, he was in the flashback,
really
sorry.
Flashbacks.
Eddie Barrows, yeah.
Barrows, yeah.
And a bunch of others on this one, actually. But Eddie Barrows is
the idea that he gives up the guns, but he picks up shurikens. He's like, well, it's less lethal.
Yeah, no, I kind of like it. I like the idea that he's like, I'm not doing this for... Because Bruce tries to say something when he says that.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, shut up, I'm not doing it for you. This is not because of your code or anything. This is because of the effect I've seen that it's had, and I'm going to change my tactics.
I murdered this young boy's father, and now I have to be responsible for him, and I don't like it.
Yeah, so, no, really solid. It's like another solid 8 out of 10 part of the story.
That's good. I hate how relatable that part is for Jason Todd. It's the consequences of my actions come back around to haunt me. Yeah,
it's good stuff. So as always, the middle stories are kind of a little bit weaker. This one actually kind of ties into the Grifter stuff a little bit. So it's called...
This is the Zealot one, right?
Yes, the Zealot one. It's called Blood for Blood. We start off with what looks like Wonder Woman stabbing a security guard with a sword.
Dang, Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and basically it turns out that this is actually Zealot dressed as Wonder Woman, because it would be easier to get past a lot of security to up to a certain point. And she's coming after Maxwell Lord, and just as she gets there, he sort of grabs... He's got a helicopter that takes him from the balcony, and he gets away. And then it cuts 6 days later. He's on a beach. He's sipping some beverage with an umbrella, as you do. And Zealot comes through the bushes from the side, kills one of his guards, and is like, hey, you know what, you've been a pest, I'm finally here to kill you. And then the real Wonder Woman shows up, saves Maxwell Lord, as conflicting as that must be, I'm sure. Says, who are you, why are you dressed as me? You used to go by the name Zana, don't do this, sister, blah, blah, blah. She swipes her sword at Wonder Woman, does draw a little bit of blood from her arm, fighting ensues. Maxwell Lord gets away in his little speedboat, and she's like, look, you got away again. See, this is what's happened. Wonder Woman flies after Maxwell Lord, but the ending here is that Zealot stands up and says, it's okay, we got what we came for. Because she's talking to the same person, whoever, Grifter was talking to.
Whoever Grifters were talking to her, that makes sense.
Same person. And she goes, no, we got what we came for. And she basically takes a bit of the blood off her sword into a test tube. All they wanted this whole time was blood from Wonder Woman. That's what this little story is about. So I'll give it credit. It is building a little bit of intrigue as to whatever the Wildcats are up to. But I was like, okay, all right. The third... Oh, I should rate that, shouldn't I? It was fine.
Yeah.
It's like a 6.
Well, so I'm looking up Zealot real quick, and she basically is Wonder Woman for the Wildcats. She's a long-lived warrior belonging to a nearly immortal ancient alien race known as the Caribim, and is a member of the Coda Sisterhood, a group of Amazonian-like ninja-like warriors from the planet Kara. So, good job. And who wrote that one?
That was Rosenberg again. So same as
thing. So he is just doing. He's just doing Wildcats.
And this is, it's the end question mark, so presumably there'll be another short story with another Wildcat character at a forthcoming issue.
Well, I mean, he's got Voodoo, Spartan, and the fake Wolverine with the metal claws. What's his name? Cyberblade or whatever. Those are the ones I can name off the top of my head.
It's more than I can name off the top of my head, I'll tell you that. Then we have the third and final part of the Tim Drake story, where he's trying to save Bernard from the cult.
Oh boy, was this controversial for...
Yeah, this came up this...
The wrong reasons.
Yeah, so he jumps into the room, he starts fighting the bad guys, he gets Bernard up. There was a moment where he's sort of holding his hand when he's just sort of like picking him up, and he mentions that his hand is warm, and but the narration sort of plays it off as, oh, maybe he has a fever or something. Like he's sort of scientifically saying, hey, this is something weird about this. But Bernard actually can fight a little bit himself. He helps him fight. There's not really much to it. There's a couple of action pages of them fighting, 2-page layout with some action panels, and it's all right. There's a page where Tim's up in like a fire escape looking down at the police, like sort of dealing with the situation, and the cop that he got information from last time, like sort of like comes up and like talks to him, and Tim kind of like unbeknownst to him, like starts like kind of like being honest about a couple of things about his life, about the fact that he broke up with someone that he cared about, meaning Steph, because no one seems to understand. He's not even sure who he is, and the cop basically says, look, stop trying to be someone, just be yourself and take it from there. Stop trying to like put yourself into like a painted corner. And there's a moment, in the previous scene where Bernard referred to their get together from before at the start of the arc as a date. And the end of the issue is that Tim goes to Bernard's, says hello, and says, I didn't know how to classify this before, but I think I'm open to the conversation and figuring it out. So Bernard says, would you like to go on a date with me? And he says, yeah, I think I want that. And that's the end of the issue. So yeah, there was some controversy this week. I don't think the story's that great. I think the entire arc, I wasn't that hot in the first 2 parts. I'm not that hot in this part either. It's fine.
I wasn't hot on the first part that I read, and it's fine.
To be honest, having now read all 3 parts, I kind of think it should have just been one little short story. I think all of the first 2 parts were mostly about building up like who the villains were, and in this third part, it doesn't matter. The villains are meaningless. Like, it didn't matter who had them. It was just about getting to Bernard and this revelation that Tim, might be bisexual, and he's exploring that possibility, and he maybe has feelings for Bernard, and that's fine. Whatever. The controversy of Tim's bisexual now. Who gives a flying shit?
In a well-told story, it doesn't matter.
Especially,
I'm more caring about the story.
And keep in mind here, first of all, some people don't realize that there's more to their sexuality till they're much older than this, but it's very common for people who are college age to be in an experimental phase at that time. So the Tim's at the perfect age for maybe realizing this. Like, whatever.
Right?
Who cares? Like, go for it.
Again, I saw the controversy come up around this. I was like, I don't want to do this again. Like, I don't, just let characters, if that's what the directions are going, let's explore it. Right now,
Yeah, I just, like, I'm, I don't think it was a great, it was fine, like, some action.
Right, that's what I'm more disappointed as, is that it feels just tacked on to a story that, like, could have been better.
I wonder, I wonder if I go back and read that first part, if it feels like it was seeding more things, or if it was, because thinking back, it did have kind of like a date vibe, despite the fact that there was, obviously we didn't take it as a date because, it was Tim and some guy from his run. I do wonder though, because I've not read that Tim, run, his solo Robin book where Bernard comes from. I wonder if there was any hints of anything back in that run or not.
I just associate Tim with Steph so much in my head. Do you know
what? I'll be delighted if this means that Steph is not associated as just as Tim's ex-girlfriend. I'll be delighted. Let her shine on her own, please.
Thank you. Hey, he did go off to Ivy Town College at the end of Tynion's run, to be himself and whatnot. And so maybe those were the seeds that were planted, and then the story is just going to clarify them a little. I just wish that the story that led to it sounds better, because it isn't, based off of your description, it doesn't sound like something that was particularly fun to read. So, it
wasn't unpleasant to read. It just wasn't that exciting.
I don't know. The way you decided, the way you're describing it almost feels like a chore. Like, I'll read it and it's not bad, but like, I could have read something else kind of vibes.
But luckily,
So-
we bookend this.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, so what's this full story at the end going to be? It turns out it ends up being a prelude to the Deathstroke book that's coming up, which it was not, which was a surprise at the end. Like I did not see this tying into Deathstroke before the end. Maybe maybe the title gave it away if you knew what the title was, because I think the title's at the end. No, it's not actually. I don't think it is. It's early on. Yeah, it's called. So the story's called Solo. It's written by Joshua Williamson, who's writing the Deathstroke book.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Art by Trevor Hairsine. Who I have to say, I actually think this was the art here was good, and I think I like this more than Hairsine's work in Deceased. I think it's better than his Deceased work.
That's high praise, because his Deceased work is pretty good.
I was a bit more mixed on his Deceased work. I think his faces are better here. I think maybe it's just a case of him not having to draw like 50 faces.
No, Hairsign did the main one, right? He didn't do the middle chapter that we all really liked.
No, that was the main. I'm sure.
Okay.
Unless I'm mixing the artists up here, but I think that was Hairsine.
Yeah. Either way.
So this actually starts. So I didn't know what this story was going to be about. It's actually a Black Canary story. In fact, more accurately, it's an old school 90s Birds of Prey story. So we go to the Hall of Justice, and Dinah's with Oliver, and they're like doing target practice. And it turns out that she's just kind of like pretending she needs help, like learn how to like shoot a bow. Because she actually hits like a target really easily at the end of the scene when she gets a call from Babs and has to go away. And Oliver's like, you know what? You don't have to like pretend. Like if you want to spend some quality time, like I'll just do it. You don't have to pretend to need help. But she goes off because Babs calls her, and Babs is like, hey, I've got a job for you. There's this group called Trust. It's an acronym, right? It's called Trust, and they're up to something.
Comics.
It's all very shady. They're too clean, right? There's something suspicious about how clean they are. They're clearly covering something up. So the head honcho, this woman's going to be at this gala in London in a couple of days. I want you to go there. I'll give you an expense account. I'm going to call the shots from here. I have to be in Gotham, so I can't go myself. So it's like proper old school Birds of Prey. This is just them two. Babs at the computer, Dinah on location doing spy stuff. I'm like, okay, this is actually really cool, really fun. And she's like, hey, do I get a car? And that was a big thing. Like, you know, from what I've read of Dixon's Birds of Prey, there's a lot of shots of Dinah riding expensive cars. That was a big part of that book. So sure enough, we cut to her in a red convertible, and she's like speeding through London. Although London's not exactly a good place to be driving a convertible most of the year. Just FYI.
Weather doesn't permit the top down.
But no, it's really good stuff. And she ends up going to this gala. She puts on a dress, and again, Dinah kind of going undercover was a big part of that run. And she tracks down this woman here, and she's trying to think about how to like approach her in a way that doesn't look suspicious. And just as she thinks that or says that, a bunch of terrorists show up and try to assassinate this woman. So Dinah just goes into action mode and, you know, saves her life. A couple of good action sequences. I really like that. She actually stabs one of the guys in the face with her stiletto.
Oof.
And the guy pulls it out, and there's like a blood splat coming out as he pulls it out. Really fun little beat. Action solid here. But yeah, so she's all, you know, kicking ass. She uses her canary cry, and the guy lands. She goes out the window, and he lands on the Corvette, or I don't know if it's a Corvette, but you know, the convertible. And Dinah's like, shit, I really like that car. So this action scene's a lot of fun. I want to get it across that this is a really fun classic Birds of Prey Dinah kicking ass action scene. Down to the fact that she's in a dress and she's sort of taking off the heels and she's like fighting on her bare feet. It's just a really traditional thing. So basically this woman's like, hey, she wants to meet you and gets a ride to this mansion. And then he's like, hey, you know, you've invited me here. And she's like, well, you saved my life. I want to show you around. And, you know, Dinah's thinking she's going to have to like convince her to like tell her more. And then she's like, hey, I want to offer you a job. And she shows her a painting. So apparently this organization Trust has been around for a long time, but it's been very secretive. And she shows her a painting that has her parents in it. You know, Dinah, Drake, and her father. Apparently they did some work with this organization back in the day. And she's like, okay, I'm in. And it's worth mentioning that the communications with Babs have went down. Like, whatever blockers they've got have, like, knocked out the communication. So she takes her to this secret room. It's worth mentioning, the reason why Babs even sent her on this mission is because this group bought up a bunch of Batman tech that went onto the black market after Joker War, because Joker had sold a lot of it, or put it all out. So really fun stuff, and we do learn here that those terrorists were hired by this woman so she would need saved. So this is actually really cool in hindsight, that Dinah was trying to think about how to approach her so that it wouldn't look suspicious, and instead these terrorists, which were very convenient, were actually a way to convince Dinah that this was all happenstance. And so this was actually them luring in Dinah. They want Dinah on their side for something. But they basically say, okay, so here's the job. You're going to have to babysit another person that we've brought in as an operative. Someone you've worked with in the past. You're going to be acting as the player in the field. You'll be the agent who's helping us keep control of the other operative. You're the precision. This other one's the blunt object, and then it reveals Deathstroke as the other person they've got there working for them. Who, by the way, is using a bat cowl to wipe his blade, which has got blood on it.
Well, we know Bruce just drops those.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, they've just bought a bunch of bat tech. I presume there's a bat outfit or something in there somewhere. And she's like, wait, Deathstroke, you gotta be effing kidding me. And she's like, so it's a big sort of nice cliffhanger, and there's a little epilogue which reveals basically, it's revealed in the final page who this is, but someone, so this woman hired this other organization to send these assassins to kill herself, so that, obviously Canary could save her. We find out that all three of those assassins were killed by the organization they came from, so they couldn't talk and reveal who hired them. And then it reveals who this organization is. Talia. The final page is this woman's talking to Talia, and Talia says, players in our world are making moves for the future, getting their agents in place for what is coming, and refers to it as a shadow war. So, and then it says, to be continued in Deathstroke Inc. issue 1. Do you know what? Again, much like the backup in Detective, if the goal of this was to make me into the idea of what this new book is going to be, successful. Mission achieved.
Right. Did you ever read the Team 7 stuff from New 52? I
did not know.
Yeah, so that put a team together that her husband, that she gets the Lance name from, I think. I think his name was Kurt Lance, and Deathstroke and Grifter, and a couple of the mercenary characters. They were all on this team that was kind of Suicide Squad adjacent, but they're all government sponsored. They were mercenaries, but backed, and they had to go get the Black Diamond, and they involved Eclipso, and it wasn't very good, but it did play up the interplay between Black Canary and Deathstroke, and she hated Slade because of who he was, and something to do with her mom and Slade, there was a history there or something, and it was very interesting to say the least. So I like the pairing of Canary with Slade.
It's kind of neat, and and Talia being involved in this tease of the Shadow War, which makes it sound like that's going to be something that's not just Deathstroke Inc. That might be something that expands into more books. It also further makes Checkmate feel a bit separate.
Yeah.
Because Talia, of course, is tying in well enough to the Robin stuff, which is also Williamson, so it's all going to be neatly fitting together with this. This feels like a separate thing that's going to be more directly related to in-continuity stuff. So we'll see how that goes. But like I say, I thought Hairsign's art here was better than his deceased stuff. I thought, especially all the action with Canary, her fighting at the party, onto the car, all that stuff was really well done. And I went in knowing nothing, got a classic Birds of Prey style story that ended in the cliffhanger that they're putting a team together with Deathstroke, which is leading into the Deathstroke book. It makes me wonder, is Bab still going to be there as Oracle for her throughout that book? Because presumably that makes Dinah is going to be a main character in that Deathstroke book, which is, again, also cool and is more appealing because, much like the Joker book is more of a Gordon book, it's more appealing to me when it's not just... Because Deathstroke is a bit more interesting, but I still need, when I was reading the Deathstroke book from before, it was Rose who was more of a sympathetic character. Jericho as well to an extent. So having Dinah be there as our character that we can root for and more wholesome get behind. Deathstroke is more of an anti-hero, I think, is a really wise choice. So it got me pumped for it. So I dug it.
Good.
So I'll give this a nice solid 8 out of 10. I'm in for it. So so just when I thought, maybe I won't read this every month now, this Urban Legends book, it gives me this, and I'm like, well, both is more like this though.
Yeah, that's how they get you.
So we'll see.
If?
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. But that's Urban Legends issue 6. The problem with you having not read a few books in a row, Matt, is that my voice is starting to go.
Yeah. So just make it quick. I can carry Rorschach. There's a lot to talk there.
Oh, there's a lot to talk about Rorschach. We're going to get into that page by damn page. But so Batman 89, issue 1, Sam Hamm, which is it's kind of a silly name, but fair play to you.
Fun name to say.
Yeah, Joe Quinones on the art. This is obviously, in the world of the Batman Tim Burton movie. It's kind of like meant to be set in that same world. Afterwards, we're dealing with Harvey Dent, based on the Harvey Dent in that. So we got Billy D. Williams looking Harvey Dent. But it introduces some other things. It also, interestingly, brings in other things from like Batman mythos from the comics. It puts their own spin on it. Like it mentions Burnside at one point in this, which was kind of like, oh, that's weird. All right, but fair enough. Why not? I guess there can be a Burnside in this Gotham. This was okay.
Right. Okay.
I wouldn't like. It's kind of interesting seeing like, this bat suit, this Batmobile, dealing with like what's going on in this world like after the events of Batman, and I guess Batman Returns. I guess that's also happened, but I don't know if they actually mention it. It definitely, the city looks more like Batman 89 because there was a difference between the two movies. Like
okay.
Oh, your mate's going, Matt. So there's a bunch of stuff like that. So one of the things they do is they introduce Barbara Gordon in this, as in Jim's daughter.
Right.
But based on the age of Jim Gordon in those movies, it makes sense that Barbara's also a bit older than she normally is. So Barbara in this is actually who Harvey Dent is dating, and actually proposes to in this issue. They're at a fancy dinner early on in the issue, and Barbara's a cop in this as well.
Weird.
Yeah, so we're going full, Elseworldsy with us.
Yeah.
It makes sense given Gordon's age though, that Barbara's already like in her like 30s as a cop. It does kind of make sense in a lot of ways. There's like a whole armored car thing going on and a helicopter trying to rob it, and Batman shows up for your kind of your first action set piece, and it's all right. It's just not, it's whatever. The giant penny gets involved here a little bit, so it kind of teases some other Batman stuff. Harvey goes off to like stop a mugger who grabs Barbara's purse. He almost gets shot. He kind of does something from Dark Knight where he threatens to shoot one of the muggers and uses the coin. Like heads, you die, tails, you blah blah blah. But just kind of lets them go. So it seems anyway. I will say there's definitely a couple of characters that aren't that modeled after the movie. Like Alfred's got a mustache, which he never had in those movies.
Not for Go.
And the other character they have that's not that similar, although probably for the better, is actually Jim Gordon, because when you finally see Jim Gordon, he's still a sort of chubby guy. He's still overweight like he is in the movie, but he looks way more like traditional Jim Gordon. He's got the mustache. It's not white hair. He's just a fatter Jim Gordon basically.
Right. So based off of the character designs I was seeing in the back of the comics, might have been last week, 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure.
Yeah, whenever they were.
That checks out then, because I think I saw that version of Jim Gordon. And I just was like, oh, okay, it's Jim Gordon. But I didn't even make the connection because I haven't seen those movies in forever. That I forgot that Gordon's a character in there, but he's not as we know him.
Well, that was the thing that struck me as really weird in this, is that this book really kind of pretends that Batman and Gordon are a lot more like comic book Batman and Gordon in terms of like their... Because Harvey Dent doesn't like Batman. Harvey Dent sees Batman as like a vigilante problem. And he wants to like sort of take down Gordon. He sees Gordon as being corrupt for like encouraging this vigilante. And there's some character stuff with Harvey where he goes to his old neighborhood and he's like his old mentor. kind of gives him shit for not being around too much. But he's like, no, these kids should see a black man who's in a prominent position, who's successful, who's not an athlete, or even worse, like someone like a dealer, someone who's like making a difference, right? And so it gets into kind of his history. It's dealing with the fact that we have a black Harvey Dent, and that's all good stuff. That's all solid. And he tries to like get Batman to show up by having the bat signal turned on, but he's put like a bar on it, so it's like a sensor sign going through the Batman logo. And yeah, so it sets all this stuff up, but like Batman's got like a direct communication system with Gordon where he's like talking to Gordon about this, and Gordon says he trusts him, and we're trying to make a difference. It's a lot more like Batman and Gordon in the comics where they do have like a friendship. Those movies, there is no friendship with Batman and Gordon. Gordon's just a fat guy who goes, "Yay, Batman, go," and that's it. There's nothing approaching that. So this was like, see if you built it up, see if you started it in this, like in sort of like, okay, we're going to build that up over the course of this mini. That'd be fine. Like, sure, like create it, but it's just pretending that it's already there. And well, I'm not saying that it has to pick up right after the movies by any means. It feels weird because that was not in those at all. Very odd. Like I'm fine with them introducing Barbara like out of the blue because like that's fine, but trying to tell us that Batman has this relationship with a character who already looks and feels different from the movies is just kind of like a step too far. Anyway, so he goes on the run from the police when he intervenes in something towards the end, a store robbery, and he chases down the perpetrator. It turns out, though, he chases down the wrong person because the person he chases was just someone who was in the store when this robbery happened and decided to steal some baby food. And, it's a thief, but it's someone who's stealing, like, supplies for a baby that you can't
stuff
afford
that they need.
Yeah. So, it's sympathetic. And Batman chases him down and, like, he's like, I'm not going to hurt you. Like, what's going on? And then someone in a black hood mysteriously attacks him and, like, has like a yellow like color underneath the hood, but otherwise it's just like you don't see the detail. It looks like they might be the person who was committing the robbery in the first place, although it might be the person who stole the baby supplies. But he attacks Batman and hits Batman off the fire escape. The police are there and want to try and take him in, so that's kind of your cliffhanger. And whoever this mysterious hooded figure is, like, hands this guy all the money he's got on him, which is $8, so not a lot. The reason why I mentioned this earlier is that the solicit for issue 4 or 5, whatever the issue was in the solicit, it showed you who this character was in the cover. So I guess spoilers if you're not paying attention to solicits, you don't want to know who this is. And I guess it makes some sense now that I'm looking at him, like knowing what that cover showed me.
Well, when you said yellow and red, there's a certain character that comes to mind.
Well, there's no red.
Okay.
I never said red.
Yellow.
Yeah, no.
Gotcha.
So it's just all black, but there's some yellow underneath the hood.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it also there's like a yellow mask, which again was kind of like why I never considered that it was Robin.
Gotcha.
But yes, that seems to be a Robin of some kind, and they're introducing Robin into this stuff.
Is Forever in canon with the '89 stuff?
That's like there's an asterisk on that question. Like, it depends. Like,
right.
I mean, technically, the first 2 movies are in canon in Forever and Batman and Robin, but like, is this comic like including them, or is it just saying only the first 2?
Right, because if that's the case, then introducing Dick Grayson undercuts Forever, right? But you're also Harvey Dent. He might end up as Two-Face. That undercuts the Tommy Lee Jones. So
yeah, I think it's safe to say that this is
its own. At
most, it's only including Batman and Batman Returns, and even then, it may just be Batman. Like, I mean,
so it's Halloweening 2018. It is
pretty much, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, the fact that we have a Robin here that is probably Dick. I mean, it could be a Jason, given the introduction's a bit more.
Right. That's what I was thinking. That's why I was asking about the canon of it. Not that it matters, but you could do Jason Todd as Proto Robin.
It would be weird to have Jason before Dick, though, if that's what you're implying. But I mean, then again, all the other changes in this version, I mean, I guess who cares? But
I mean, yeah, Barbara is a 30-year-old police officer dating Harvey Dent, so
I will say they are okay. I don't always love it though. There's times when I feel like Batman's a bit skinny looking, or it's maybe a bit too clean. I think for some of the type of action that it's going for. I wasn't necessarily like I wasn't feeling the jaw dropping moments of seeing him in the outfit for the first time. I just kind of felt like, oh, there he is, rather than make it feel like a big deal. And maybe part of that's just in the sequencing and like not giving it a full page or a nice big splash moment to really get across. It feels a little bit simplistic in places. So it's just okay. Like this is another one where if it's just the same amount of books next month, the same week this comes out, I'll probably give issue 2 a try. If I feel like it's a bit busier and I don't want to like squeeze it in, this might be a drop too. I'm not feeling super enthusiastic about this one. It's not a bad book. It's just fine, but I didn't love it. So, but here's hoping for Superman 78 though to knock it out of the park.
Yep.
Here's hoping. So as far as rating goes, yeah, it's probably like a 6, I'd say.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Oof.
6 out of 10. There you go. Rorschach, issue 11. Oh, baby. Do you know what? Issue 11 of Strange Adventures was freaking amazing, right? Like, some of the moments in that book were so exceptional. And it's just interesting that we got another issue 11 and an equally, if not even better, Tom King book, right after it. With this,
it really all comes together, doesn't it?
It is. This is the issue that kind of clarifies a lot of things. At least, I mean, at the very least, it poses a lot of possible solutions
through the detective character's point of view.
Yes.
It pulls it together. Is that reality? We don't know. That's the one thing.
And will we find out? I'm not sure. It might be left intentionally ambiguous.
If I had to give a strike against it, that's the kind of thing that's a little bit too ambiguous with the way that the art works with the words, or the script, I should say, the words. Because I tried to do the thing where you just read one, and you can't.
No, you
can't.
This
isn't one of those stories.
Well,
because you need the interplay between the two panels.
He is having a conversation with, because this is him in his head effectively having a conversation with the kid, and to a point, Meyerson as well, but mostly the kid.
Right.
And the art sort of like does this thing where when we see him asking his side of the conversation, he's in his like hotel room or whatever it is, and when we see them, they're at the ranch or maybe other locations if it's relevant to the part of the answers they're giving. And
that's what got me was at the beginning I thought, because as it goes, it becomes more clear what it's doing. I thought maybe this is an intercut, right? And they're playing with our expectations that the conversation the detective's having doesn't necessarily play into what the kid's saying, right? But then when you get to certain things, like they pass each other their beer bottle, right? And the way that that's handled, it's like they're sharing the same space. It's so well done.
Yeah,
it's stupid well done.
The structure and the way it bounces between them, and obviously someone like her, because he's drinking a beer bottle, and obviously you weren't here for the last issue, but I was raving about that final page from last issue where he like pulls out the napkin and like picks up the bottle so he can test it for prints. It was such a game-changing moment.
And that at the end of the day, there's a black and white, right and wrong, and Turley's definitely on the wrong side of it. However, given the kid's reasons for doing all this, she's not necessarily in the right either.
Oh, of course, because she thinks it's a squid invasion, and we know the squid's a lie.
Right. And so the whole thing is like, yes, sometimes things are justified, but not in the way that you think. And it's just, oh man. And then when you want to add in what this means in the modern times, I was reading so many different layers from King here.
Yeah, there's a lot to get into here. So, he throws the bottle, and that's kind of what kicks off, because we see the bottle land in the other, like, reality, if you will. Obviously, this is really just in his head, but this is how it plays out. And it's like the prints match, didn't they? Alan, the guy who hired him, like, his prints are on that bottle, and what does that mean? And it spends like a good, several pages explaining how this all works out and what the actual build up of this is. And our detective talks about how you laid all this out so I would discover all this, so I'd find it all. But basically, it sets up the idea that the guy they killed, and the reason why they killed him, is because he went there to make sure, because they were setting them up. Like, Alan and Co. were setting up the kid and Meyerson because they wanted to set up Redford behind an assassination plot. And
attempt on Turley.
Yes.
Not thinking that the kid could actually make the shot, right?
Yes.
These are going to be the patsies. But when he gets there and sees that she can make the shot, he's like, well, we can't do it like this.
Yes.
So he tries to take matters into her own hands. But the kid's like,
and it ties up some loose ends where it's like, okay, it wasn't the secretary who made that call last issue. It was the Alan himself.
Under duress. It was her, but she was under duress, and and then
no. The phone call she never made. Like, it says that quite clearly in this.
Oh yeah, I got you. I thought you were talking about the confession.
No, the confession was her. That was under duress, and then they slit her wrists. Like, it wasn't
and
a
then
suicide.
Drowned her in the tub. Yeah.
So. All of this stuff, all these details are kind of explained, and all of this that feels like pretty much taken as fact, and it kind of explains these different things. So this guy, I think it was Oates was the name. He shoots at the kid, which is why they fight back and kill him. Because that was one of the big questions I had that last couple of issues, is that when they showed kind of some of these moments, but out of context, it was like, well, why did they kill him? Like, it never really quite makes it clear. Yeah. And then this finally kind of clarifies it.
And then, and just the way that Turley wanted this, because knowing that Redford's never going to lose the Vietnam vote, which is such a weird thing to say, right?
Yeah.
that Turley knows that he's not, so he has to use, the comedian's methods, right? Of getting dirty and pulling all these strings and using people that are loyal to him in Redford's own campaign to do all this. And that Rorschach Meyerson being Rorschach, being this paragon of what truth means, right? Can't allow it. And that's why they're on a similar path, right? They were put in that path to stop Turley. And this is now, he's the detective is now part of this.
Yeah, I mean, the first half of this issue is just going through all of these details and explaining how it all fits together. Which it doesn't.
It's airtight.
Yeah,
it's airtight.
And at this point, that's totally fine to do. Is just spend the time doing that, and then and then it gets to the part where the kid says, "You know what you have to do," and he's like, "No, please don't." And we get the page, and we've been speculating this for like half the book at this point, saying. This is leading to him possibly becoming the new Rorschach, because there was all those, just in the art, there was all these things that was making him stand in the same place, or all these little hints that maybe that's where it was going.
He just has the vibe too from the first time we meet him,
And you get this full page that's split into 4 vertical panels, where the first 2 are Rorschach, the second 2 are his face, but they're lined up so that it's like one face like blending together, and it's the Rorschach side says you have to kill him. Which is really emphasizing the idea that this is all him. Like, he's having this conversation with himself, effectively.
Right. And that if Turley did this, right, and that he's put this together, and there's no other way that it can be this is the truth, then he's the only person now. And it kind of goes into that mania that was Rorschach, or I can never remember his actual name. It's Kovacs, Walter Kovacs. That it's this mania for what is the truth, and that what is the truth can drive you nuts, and that here him trying to figure out why this old artist and young sideshow shooter, what they did to end up trying to assassinate a presidential candidate, has now driven him to trying to assassinate the same candidate. It's so wild about how King So for me, it's like how King knows how ideas spread, right? Yeah, he's in the CIA.
And the funny thing about this is that even though the squid story is a lie, we know it's a lie. We know there are reasons for believing that he's going to, because the kid thinks that he is, he's working for the squids, and it's the squids are coming for us and all this. But in reality, he's going to steal an election and then do who knows what with the power, right? Whatever, because we don't know the specifics of this political party. We've had hints, we've had
No, but the fact that he
teases.
idolizes the comedian and we know all the bad things the comedian did.
Yeah, there's enough to have a sense that it's not a good idea, right? If he's willing to steal it like this, if he's willing to set up Redford in this way, we know we can't trust this idea. It's all about these conspiracy theories and these ideas that spread.
Well,
and what I like about this next section, though, is that, it becomes Meyerson, but not as Rorschach. It's Meyerson at the artist table, drawing these comics, and it gets a little bit meta because he's talking about wearing a mask. He's talking about specifically the person who did the train schedules in Nazi Germany for the concentration camps, and how he was just doing the job he was hired to do. And when he was asked about it in court afterwards, he said, well, either I cannot do it and someone else who will do a poorer job will make their lives even worse, or I do the job as well as I know I can. And, it talks about how he's this cog in the wheel and all the rest of it in responsibility. But then what I really like about this, because obviously that's like a really dark thing to bring up and compare all of our parts in the overall tapestry of the scheme and all the rest of it. But what I really loved about this is when it gets to this idea of, he talks about, he would draw his heroes, his pirates, his superheroes, and the idea that these superheroes were costume characters, and he would draw them in the boxes, because in the boxes he would have control. And to me, this whole idea of, like, in general, the idea of superheroes, the idea of fictional stories is that we have control. And the idea of, like, stories that spread about reality that are false is that we sort of manipulate them into something that we think we can understand and control and have a clear villain. And then that gives us some sort of comfort, because it's not this nuanced thing. We can then say we control it because we are put in. And the idea that Meyerson eventually put on a Rorschach mask and said, no, this is clearly the bad guy and I have to kill him because that's simple. I can take control. Because the biggest fear in the world that any of us have is that we don't control anything, is that the world and fate and happenstance are just going to screw us all over because there's no rhyme or reason to the universe.
Well, yeah, and that the reason too that the whole idea of the citizen and what the duty of the citizen is, right? Like, he has this, says he's at the drawing table, and he's like, the duty of the citizen is to serve the polity. Without the duty of the citizen, the polity reverts to totalitarianism. And so it's this whole idea that we as people, right, we might not have any control, but when we give up that control because you feel like you don't have any, you actually don't have any. So it's this whole idea of you become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that Meyerson and the kid, whatever their reasons were, squids, the whatever, they took that control back. And it goes to when, the kid's a kid, and right after she had shot her dad, she talks about how, they became the heroes, that the Watchmen characters, right? The comedians, the Dr. Manhattans, the Night Owls, the Rorschachs, they left a legacy that now they have to pick up. And so again, to go back to that whole idea of the citizen, is people came before us to fight for the good things. We need to pick that up. We can't just let that go by where people like Turley win. And it was just like, God damn it, King. Why are you so good at this?
Yeah, I think that even ties into what Meyerson said as well about, drawing stories gave comfort because it was an element of control. He could control anything he put into these stories, anything, because it's in these boxes. Everything fits into these boxes. And then the idea of putting on a mask is then taking back control. So the idea that, because we know she has this tortured background with her father teaching her how to use all these guns and like giving her the purpose and all the rest of it. And the idea of finding control and like sort of taking things back, and because her father basically taught her that, is that we can control everything if we plan for all this. And I think one of the things that I love the transition, it's just when the detective's getting undressed to go to bed, and he's saying, no, you're a guy who draws pirates. And he's like, yeah, but I drew pirates. I put the world in its place, panel by panel, thousands of them. This is the main part I was getting to about the controls. Like, now I see all those lines pushed into place, and I didn't draw anything. He sees those panels in the real world. He sees the separation of elements, the lines that separate things. If you ever looked at your hand, there's no line around or cross hatching, but that's all I had. I never drew a hand. I see so many lines. I traced ink over pencil. And all the patterns I put for them there, I'm responsible for them. I drew the lines looking back. And the transition here that I really like is the idea that as the kid's father in this flashback as this dialogue's going. It's not if anything because he's speaking here as if he is the kid's father, right? That's just kind of the weird thing about this little sequence. Right. But he's picking up. I guess it's kind of like going back to the idea that he influenced her because she grew up on his art. So it's kind of like he was this father figure to her even before when she did have a father. But so the idea that her real father and Meyerson have kind of merged into one in her mind.
And which one she felt closer to.
Yeah.
Right?
But the transition,
biological father or this guy.
The transition here I really like though is that as he picks up the gun in this last panel, some of the balloons from the conference, the press conference,
the rally,
those are starting to actually float up in the frame, and we get this great panel where it's split in two vertical panels on the page, and Rorschach Meyerson is holding up the gun and says, "I see only myself." And as he's pointing the gun, the other panel in the hotel room is just the detective completely naked, completely bare and exposed, saying, "I can't." Because it's them saying, "No, you need to kill him. You need to kill Turley. Because he's evil. He's going to do all this." And we get this really shocking sort of sequence where Rorschach shoots him in the face. The bullet goes across, and he's lying on the bed with blood splatter all over his face. But of course, he's not really dead. It's not a real bullet, right?
No, but it makes a Rorschach mask on his face.
It does, yeah.
With the blood, yeah.
It's beautiful stuff. He's been stripped of the disguise of like the regular humanity and become what he really is, which is someone who is there to become a Rorschach, right? And then he gets a call. Alan saying, "Come and Turley wants to speak to you. Bring all the evidence. I know it's like midnight, but that's fine." And obviously, like, are they going to kill him for what he's discovered? Like, so he can't trace anything? I was getting that vibe. Because now that they've got the evidence, they don't need him anymore. And that's why they hired him, because they couldn't find the tape. They had to track down this tape. So he gets up, he washes himself. It's all silent panels. And the last page is him getting in the elevator, and there's this yuppie who's there.
He's the worst.
Yeah, he's in LA to see a girlfriend, and he's like, "Maybe I should come out here. All these nice girls, New York sucks at nighttime." And I'm like, "Wait, New York society never sleeps." I actually thought that in my head, and then he says, "Ever since the squid, that city just goes to sleep at night." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right, it's a difference because of what happened."
The cultural difference.
Yeah, so that's kind of neat. He's like, maybe I should move out here because LA is great, and it's just all these girls out here, and blah 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 blah. You don't get that sense in New York, but you get that out here, right? And the final panel, this guy's like, "Hey, you know what I mean, right? The LA is full of girls, and it's all this nightlife. It's great." And the final panel is just our detective going, just like Rorschach.
Yeah. So he's been incepted. So as you were having that, I realized.
Yes.
What is a Rorschach test?
Right? A Rorschach test is when you hold up an ink blot and you ask the person what they see in it.
And there's no right or wrong answer, right? It's what it is to you. And so that's here with this is that Rorschach has the concept here of Meyerson and the kid. It was held up to him, and this is what he saw. And this is why he becomes the next Rorschach.
It's this really fascinating, conflicting thing because we know Turley is likely an evil bastard and probably should be stopped, although probably not by assassination because that's all of some kettle of fish, and we know that
anybody listening to this, yes. And
a lot of this is based on a lie because we know the squids aren't real and that's all made up.
No.
But at the same time, they were onto something.
Bastard. Yeah, they cannot be allowed to be president.
They were onto something. They found something real, and because they were hired to do this, and they kind of realized these, and they left all these clues.
Right. Over the course of 2019, there was the phrase, "It's not the crime, it's the cover-up." Right? And that's what I feel King was kind of working on here, was that concept of It's not necessarily the crime that was committed. It was the cover up of said crime, because the crime itself wasn't huge, right? Like here, sure. But the fact that they went through all of these other things to cover up the crime was worse than what they originally intended. And then that's what leads them basically to what I feel is going to be the downfall. Although it is set in the Watchmen universe, so that could mean anything at this point. You know, like you said, this could all just be his version of reality, and it's not real, it's whatever, and he's going in there on a suicide mission. You know, or they're going to take him out because of what he found out. You know,
I mean, I don't want to just predict the ending here, but I mean, I can see him dying, but I can see him dying and taking Turley with him, and ending.
Well, and then
this.
What does that inspire next? Who does that go to? Whose truth is that now? And it's just, man, King's so good at this. It's so stupid.
You know, it's really fascinating that these characters were, everything they're doing to an extent is based on a lie. A lie spread and it created this fear, and obviously this comic book it puts us in a difficult position as a reader, because it's making you sympathize with people who are actually doing bad things, and it's making you think about why they're doing those things, even if you happen to agree that the villain that ultimately they were going after is maybe villainous and should be taken down. It is forcing you to think about it in different ways that aren't just, here's the good guy, here's the bad guy. It's not that simple, which I think is why it's so great that we have that section with Myerson talking about making this world make sense and taking control by drawing it as superheroes or as pirates in a comic book, because you make it simple, but by trying to force it to be simple when it's not simple, you're taking away all the nuance. And I think one of the things that sticks out to me about the spread of misinformation and information that's used to create narratives that aren't true or backing up, agendas, will it be political or just stupid because people don't want to wear masks or something, whatever it may be. Let's not get into those specifics.
No.
But the idea being that taking those and making them be simple and ignoring the truths or ignoring the details or not thinking about the facts and just hand waving them away because they don't fit your version of events it's dangerous. That's the point.
Well, yeah, it is.
That it's dangerous and it creates extremists. And that's ultimately, regardless of maybe them going after the right person, the kid and Myerson are still extremists and they're still assassins.
No, right.
Yeah,
and that's what makes these types of movements so captivating to other people, because it creates a simple answer to a complex problem, right? And you don't want to waste time thinking about all of the repercussions of everything. So you just make up, it's the squids, right? And if we take him out, then the squids are thwarted. And it's like, well, no, there are bigger problems with Turley. But if the kid took time to try to dissect each and every one of those, it's just going to create a bigger thing. So they create a simple answer, and then that's what they go with.
And what conspiracy is born? Let's say he pulls this off and kills Turley. Right. What conspiracy is then born because the candidate that was going to race against Redford is killed?
Did you just create a martyr? Right? Yeah. Are they going to circle back up around and come back even stronger? And that's the scary thing. That's all the calculus. And again, coming from Tom King, whose mind is, he was in the CIA. He's seen some underhanded stuff.
Because this is not a simple story where we're just rooting because he's our main character. We're not just rooting for him to succeed because we think, Turley's a bad guy and he should kill him. It's not that simple. This is not a simple story like that in any way, shape, or form. And that's what makes it so fascinating and interesting, and easy to dissect. And I think the fact that I don't think we've ever had a name for our main character is intentional at this point, because he is an avatar. He is this kind of blank
he's a
slate.
cipher.
Yeah,
he's an everyman. So no, it's so good. And then Fornes just kills it on the art, with the colors that shift between the kid and the detective, and just it goes from super cold with the detective to warm with the kid.
Yeah, it's almost like there's comfort in the warm side because they have accepted it. At least they have created the illusion to themselves that they have accepted what they are.
Right.
And if you analyze it from the perspective of this is all in his head, and he's envisioning them in the warm, happier place because they've come to peace with what they are, right or wrong as that may be. And he himself is in this cold, rainy world, the idea that he's looking across the aisle at this delusion and going, that's appealing because it's the
That's
warm
better.
and the comforting one. That's the one that looks like
Right.
they've made things simple and they are happy and they know what their direction in life is over there.
Mm-hmm.
That's appealing. I kind of want a piece of that. Like, that's the subtlety of that coloring, which is really, really smart. And then everything, of course, comes in pairs because it's all, there's a lot of 6-panel grids where, one half's the blue and one half's the orange or the yellow. And then there's a lot of, where you get a full page of one, then a full page of the other. It's playing with that constantly. So, no, the art is exceptional.
Really, really good. So.
Yeah. And then whenever there is a blood spat of some way, it's really good. And I think it's worth mentioning, looking back through the issue, you also have the Rorschach created with the bullet and her father, when we see that again earlier in the issue, which I think is a kind of an intentional parallel between that panel and then later on what happens to our main character, or what he envisions happens to his main character. The idea that for the kid, this was her moment of seeing that, Rorschach was in her father and then it was going to someone else.
Right.
So,
right.
Again, it connects those two things. Really good stuff. It's phenomenal. I mean, what are you giving this issue, Matt?
I'm giving this one a 10.
It's hard to argue with.
It is. It's just everything came together. So, whereas the last one was really good, I felt but it left me at a place where I was like, just almost there, right? And this followed up on everything that was almost there. So,
yeah, I'm gonna agree with the 10. I was trying to argue myself down at 9.5, but
yeah,
I think I'm going.
I can't believe that fool Connor doesn't read this.
I know he is an idiot, isn't he?
Like, something like this is so good that I can't believe he doesn't.
He's our Guillermo. If this is what we do in the shadows.
Not you, Guillermo. Are you sure he's not Colin Robinson?
Oh yeah, you know what? That fits better. Yeah, he sucks the energy out of everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Colin
Guillermo,
Robinson.
you're not a vampire, Guillermo. Stop it.
Oh, Nandor.
They all have great voices. They all have great voices.
Yes, they do. Oh.
All right. What you? Well, we've already rated. Okay, that's us.
We've already rated. Now you get to talk about Joker, and then we can rate, and then tell what's next, and then I can go take a nap. So if we can wrap this up, snappy. I mean, don't rush the Patreon, but also don't take your time. That's what I need to say.
Joker issue 6, which is a Patreon book every month at patreon.com/MailPlusTV. One of the higher tiers is to make myself or Connor read a book, and because a second patron also made me read an issue of Joker last month, I am now up to date and can do these for Patreon, but I can do them when they come out as well, which is a nice touch. So this is this week's issue of Joker. And yeah, it's a shame going back to Gillen March, but what are you going to do? Luckily, the story is still really solid and doing a lot of cool stuff. This is an issue that kind of takes stock again of where we are and everything that's going on, but it does do a little bit of explaining. So there's been kind of this mysterious family who have been hunting Joker, along with the Bane chick and the others that are coming after him. And this finally explains this. And I compared it to Texas Chainsaw because there was hints of the family that felt very Texas Chainsaw-esque. And sure enough, this flashback at the start shows that they are cannibals. It is very Texas Chainsaw. In fact, one of them even is holding a chainsaw in the flashback. Although it's not the big dumb one who is more the Leatherface adjacent. Because there's the other one who's like yelling at him and barking orders, and so there's definitely parallels to them. But there's a victim that they're chasing after who they want to eat, and they want to bring her back, and she gets away, and they're chasing after her. And the one twist on the story here that's separate from Texas Chainsaw is that when they're hunting down this victim who gets away, they actually find some oil on their land and they become rich. Like, it cuts to present day, and we see like a framed newspaper. The Samson family finds millions in their own backyard, and even the uncle's referred to as Uncle Sawyer, and Sawyer is one of the names that is used in Texas Chainsaw. So it's not hiding its influence, shall we say? Basically, the brother, because the brother and sister got sent out to track down Joker. The brother got injured in the last issue, the last present day issue. So he's now getting a mask. They mention that hold on, what was the line? Yeah, so I got him a mask like Uncle Billy used to have. Isn't that nice? So yeah, there's an implication that the big dumb guy was their Leatherface and had a mask. This isn't a Leatherface mask though. This is like a black glass mask with a yellow symbol in the front. So it's very different. But they can't get sued with this one. Is my thinking. So yeah, it sets up that they're still coming after Joker. They're hunting them down. So Gordon's in Paris, and he talks a lot in his narration about how he promised his first wife Barbara that they were going to go to Paris for their honeymoon, but there was a murder that was unsolved, and he thought that the boys at the station in Chicago were going to just like take a payoff, and like some innocent kid from the wrong side of town was going to get blamed for it. So he insisted on staying, and they never went, and he still kind of feels guilty about that. He gets into a fight with some local thugs. He talks about how he feels out of place at the hotel because he goes to a really expensive hotel. Because again, his benefactor's paying for all this. So he feels out of place. He talks about how he always felt out of place when he was commissioner, and he'd be invited to the high society balls as commissioner. And they always kind of like smirked at him in a way where it was like, hey, you're a guest here, but you're not one of us. You're here because of your position. But yeah, he calls Babs and ask for some updates. She's going to like put some of her people onto some of the the various threads that he's uncovered. They're looking for Joker. Talks about how this Lady Bane's really suspicious. It's kind of weird that Santa Prisca was able to sort of basically create a new Bane out of this person,
right.
And they're curious about how that actually works, and she's worried about that. She wants him to have more tech on him so she can survey him, and she's like, hey, I don't want you like following me the whole time. But yeah, she comes up with this plan. She's like, hey, Cressida's not really done anything. She's been really boring. I'm also concerned she's following me. But she says that in kind of code. I won't really get into the specifics of that. But says, hey, what if we kind of lure her out by you saying you have to travel with the private jet somewhere, and hopefully she'll make a move. And he's like, okay, like we'll give him the night to figure out, where I'm going next. So, kind of neat. But basically, Gordon's decided that he needs to call in some of his own people. So he calls Bullock, who's been trying to set up his own PI firm, and says, hey, I want to hire you. And he's like, wait, what? You want to hire me? I mean, I don't know. Like, I kind of need these first few cases to pay a lot of money. And Gordon's like, hey, it just so happens that I am being funded for this. I'll pay you double whatever fee you were thinking of charging per day. And he's like, yeah, all right. So he basically has him look into this, Texas Chainsaw family, because basically all of the online stuff has been erased. Like this family's paid everyone off to get rid of. The girl who escaped, it looked like she was paid off to accuse just the sort of big dumb brother. Which the important detail there is he's the one who got moved to Arkham Asylum and died in A-Day, which is why they're after the Joker. So that explained a lot of that backstory. A lot of this is them sort of reassessing the case and who are these various parties that are chasing after it. Obviously, the woman from Santa Prisca is clearly because Bane died. That was always fairly obvious, although there's still some more details to learn about who she is exactly. Right. But as he's on the phone to Bullock, he hangs up and some French police show up. I think Interpol specifically. And they're like, hey, we're taking you in because his fingerprints showed up at a murder scene. And he's like, that effing clown. Because the last time we saw Joker, Gordon was tied up, and Joker like sort of left him alone to play the game. But yeah, he obviously had his fingerprints and has put his fingerprints all over a murder scene that Joker's at a lab somewhere. And basically says, okay, well, let's go. We have to go somewhere. And the final page is just Joker watching from a rooftop. This is clearly something he's intentionally set up. So we don't know what he's up to. So this is very much a setup issue, but I actually really like them like establishing more details about who all these other characters are who are chasing Joker. Because it's really building a supporting cast, it's really building like all of these things moving at the same time. Still digging the relationship between Barbara and Gordon. At one point, Barbara says that she's going to have to like send one of her friends in person to like help her hack the Pentagon so she can get in, because she said that once Oracle's like existence was made public again, all of the security like industries and like spy organizations around the world all like tripled the security like online. So she's going to have to break into the Pentagon with someone in person, and Gordon's just like, I don't think I should be hearing about this. Like, he doesn't want to know about it. He's like, no. But so them working together and him knowing she's Oracle is still really interesting to play with. So still digging it. Gillen Marchart is Gillen Marchart. I'm not going to spend too much time on it.
Can't do nothing about that.
Obviously, it's a shame because that flashback issue last time was so good. But the main story is still fun, and it's still a Gordon book. Joker's in one panel. He's in one panel. This is a Jim Gordon book, and it is a really well told story. So I'm going to give this issue a 7.5. I'm just not going higher because of the art. But knowing that annual's coming up with the Frank Avila art is really exciting. So I'm pleased by that. So this is a solid issue in the run. The backup though, which is basically Harper gets herself thrown in prison because she wants to try. So the character who I didn't really know about at the end of the last issue in the backup, which I complained about, it turns out she's like a witness who can like testify or give evidence for Punchline. So Harper wants to get into the prison to go find her, and basically tries to like not get noticed by Punchline. Punchline immediately says, "Hey, you newbie, come over here." And she's like, does she know who I am? Is she playing dumb? Has she made me? And that mystery goes on for a couple of pages. But then she flat out reveals, do you really think I wouldn't notice those like crappy like added tattoos that you don't actually have? I know who you are. I know who your brother is. And it becomes this kind of moment where a fight breaks out. Harper goes running to try and find this girl that she's looking for. Harper had someone record this on her cell phone, and it looks quite bad because it looks like Harper attacked her. So this is going to be used to, it's going to be spread online to make Harper look like she's been attacked in the prison, that she is a good prisoner who's playing by the rules, and that other people are trying to kill her. The final page is her brother and his like sort of new friend / boyfriend, who is saying, "Hey, look at this on TV, or look at this on my phone. Like, she's been attacked by people. This is crappy. We have to do something about this. Like, she's innocent and she's been attacked by people." And he says bad people. And I'm not like I think the implication is he probably recognizes his sister in this moment, and that's kind of the cliffhanger. So it's better than last issue. It was easier to follow this backup. I still like the art very much, and like I like it for having more Harper stories, but it does feel a little bit less interesting in the main story. Like, I'm really into the Gordon stuff. I'm really into Barbara. I'm really into all these other characters hunting the Joker. The backup feels a little bit ancillary at this point. Because it's a Patreon book, I'm going to keep reading it because it's a Patreon book, so I should read the whole thing. If it wasn't a Patreon book, I'd probably just not read the backup. But whatever. It's okay. It's like a 6. Well, 5.5.
There you go.
It's okay. And poor Matt is yawning a storm.
I'm sorry, I cannot. This has gone way too long.
Well, it was a Solicits speak.
Yes, I know.
It was bound to.
I know.
But luckily, about to put you out your misery is that part of the show where we pick our favorites of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, top 5, favorite art, all that stuff. Matt, what's your moment / panel of the week?
All right, so I do want to point out in Infinite Frontier, where they have all of the multiversal threats. That page really good, but it's gonna be from Rorschach, and it's gonna be when he gets shot by Meyerson and falls backward, and his face is gone, and there's a red blotch, and it makes a Rorschach mask. So good.
Yeah, I don't know what my pick is actually. Obviously there's tons of great things in Rorschach that could be done. I love that gunshot moment in Infinite Frontier. There's a bunch of stuff that I could pick from. Even all the Bat family showing up in the Red Hood story in Urban Legends was good. But I think just to be different, I'm going to not go with Rorschach, and I'll pick the reveal of the classic Batman suit in Detective Comics. It was a really fun moment. Yeah, good art, fun moment.
Yeah.
a different vibe to Rorschach, just from variance. All right, cover of the week. What you got?
I really like the Rorschach main cover. That one's good. But I'm gonna give it to Infinite Frontier with the Garrett's cover. It's got Flashpoint, Batman, President Superman. I like it a lot. It looks nice.
That's a nice cover. The main Rorschach cover is good because it is like our detective character, like lifting up his shirt to reveal basically like a Rorschach style skin, if you want to call it that. It was the cover that was the most exciting to look at, and it's also really nice art. So I'm going to be boring and pick that. But I will point out that the Black Canary variant for Urban Legends is pretty good. I don't know who did that. It looks like maybe an art germ or someone like an art germ.
Gotcha.
I don't think it is actually art germ, but it's like an art germ. But yeah, so there you go, cover. Okay, what's your favorite art of the week?
Well, I want to shout out to Mora. Mora's really, really good.
Yeah, Mora's
Batman. But
fantastic.
Fornes for Rorschach.
I'm basically saying the same thing. Shout out to Mora because it is phenomenal, but like Fornes on Rorschach is just exceptional this week. So there you go. All right, top 5, Matt, or 4 in your, or 3 in your case. You had 3 books.
Yeah, Rorschach, Tech, and Infinite Frontier.
Hey, at least there's 3 great books of varying degrees, so you can't argue that much with that. I'm going to go Rorschach number 1 as well. I will go Detective number 2. And then for number 3, I will go. I'll go Urban Legends overall because I really like the first and last story and dug them both in different ways. I'll go Joker at number 4. And then number 5, I guess. I Am Batman. Yeah, issue 0 is better than Batman 89, I would say. So okay.
Wow, there you go.
There you go. Yeah. So I'll tell you what's coming next week. That is what is next. So let's see how big next week is, Matt. We got The Flash 773. We got Nightwing 83. That's exciting. Batman Catwoman issue 6. Oh, nice to finally have that back. We have Catwoman 34. Superman and the Authority issue 2. I'm so I'll probably read it, but I'm not feeling super enthusiastic about it. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow issue 3. I am looking forward to. Legend of the Dark Knight issue 4. Superman Red and Blue issue 6. Blue and Gold issue 2. I don't know if Matt's going to read that one, but we'll see.
It's on the list. It's on my pull list, but we'll see if I get to it.
Shazam issue 2, Batman Secret Files, Clown Hunter issue 1, Truth and Justice issue 7, and Scooby Doo Where Are You 111. So it's actually not a super busy week. It's just kind of a normal-ish amount. But I'm really looking forward to Nightwing, Catwoman, kind of Flash as well, actually, at this point, since it's become just a proper Wally West book. So, and then Supergirl is really exciting too. So, there's good stuff next week. So, nice. I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So, thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Boardnow, Al Treisman, Christopher Moy, David Brown, and Stanley. Not Stanley.
Stanley.
So thank you to you guys. You can, of course, support us over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses for your trouble. At the $5 tier in particular, you get the show a day early. You get it sometime late on a Saturday whenever it's done and out of the oven. You get it straight away versus the usual time on the Sunday. So go and have a look and see if you're interested in all that stuff. You can support us for free, though, by simply hitting the like button, subscribing, commenting, dinging the bell on YouTube. All those things help the YouTube out a lot. You can review the podcast and give us 5 stars on iTunes, Podcast Addict, or wherever you get your podcast from. That does help spread the show out as well. And of course, follow us on DC Comics, at DC Comics Podcast on Twitter. You can share us out on Twitter, share us out on social media, share us with your friends via you know, pigeon carrier or whatever you want to do it. It doesn't matter.
Send a raven.
Either way is fine. But you know, share the love, spread the love, and do all that stuff. But that is us. So I will let Matt go and get some sleep as he has been clearly struggling for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, buddy.
Thank you very much for joining us. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
Bang a ring.